All right. How many victims could there actually be? Well, there's a lot of victims because, like I said, you got two aspects to this case. You got the murders, and then you have the what do you call it? The fallout, and this is part of the fallout. Okay, but this is an unusual instance because in this case, the fallout is ultimate chaos on social media for a reason. For a reason, because the ultimate chaos is helping to cover up, divert the narrative. It distracts, and it's averting justice for the murderers or for the victims of the Delphi murders, and that's unacceptable. Okay, Benny's having trouble. Well, that's okay, Benny. Look, I will give you. I know that it's you, so let's see if you can get your mic working. I'll bring you on. Try to get that mic working. That's what I mean. How deep and far does this go? Well, that's why I titled the show "Reflections on the Community" because it's enough. Let me bring Benny on and see if she'll talk with us. Benny, I hear you.
I think I'm here.
You are here.
Ah,
Welcome in,
hello
Benny.
guys. Welcome. Sorry, I don't have a camera. I'm not good with tech, but I'm. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Benny. I messed up. I removed myself. I was having trouble. But now you went silent on us. Oh.
Okay.
Oh, you're back. Okay, you're back.
Yes, I'm back.
So let's talk, Benny.
Let's talk. Yes, let's talk.
What do you have to say? Because I know you and I had some disagreements here and there, but
Oh, hell yeah.
you've never done what these people have done, so I'm willing
No,
to be cordial with you and understand each other because I don't think you're a bad person at all.
no, we had minor disagreements on certain issues, but we are on the same page, and you are spot on.
Well, thank you. What am I spot on about? Because I really want to hear from you because I do a lot of talking. So I'm just so glad to hear from you. So I don't want to run much of my mouth. The floor is yours.
Well, you certainly know, and most people certainly know that this is all bullshit.
Yeah, I think it's disrespectful. I mean, we're talking about the murders of two children.
Absolutely.
So why does it come to this? It's absolutely unacceptable.
It comes to this because the puppeteers want it to be that way.
I think you're exactly right. This is intentional. It's chaos agents is what they do.
Oh, absolutely. Now, and oh, big time. And you know what? Make no bones about it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. They have their agents out doing narrative control.
Remember that you messaged me once about the stick shack, about the stick shack. Remember that?
Yes, yes.
What do you think about that stick hut shack?
Yes. What do I think? Holy shit. Don't know what to really think about that. It's just what amazes me is this old man has a pig roast. And and you get serial killers just plopping on. Like, you get the Garrett Kurtz, you get the Greenos, you get the rape initiations under the bridge, you get two little girls murdered.
Right. And then I wanted to say this earlier. So think for all these years, we thought this shit was crazy. Crazy, right? And then the crime scene photos are leaked, and the defense drops information about the crime scene. And suddenly we see it's actually crazier than your wildest imagination. Who could have imagined that these girls were left the way they were left and that there were sticks placed on them in these patterns? Who would have ever imagined that? And there was a F drawn on a tree in blood. You guys
Yeah.
forgive Benny. She's on a delay because she must be listening through her YouTube. She's on a delay.
The
So
crazy thing is, from day one, we were to believe, yes, I am, that there was a one off killer, some trucker guy going through the area, which is, as we know now, all bullshit.
Hey, Benny, are you listening through YouTube?
I am not very tech savvy.
Okay, if you would somehow, if you could turn your YouTube off and just stick with StreamYard, that will make you not have a delay because you have a delay because you're listening. YouTube is like on a 30-second or something delay, so you're hearing everything way later. If you're able to. If not, don't worry about it.
Can you hear me, Prof?
I hear you, but oh my, we lost Benny. Maybe she'll come back though.
Yeah, we lost her. She can come back.
Yeah, she'll come back. Oops. You there, Noe?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I have a hypothesis the more narrative control, the more crystal clear the real events become. Yeah. Yeah, I hope she comes back. She was on a bad delay, 30 seconds or something, so it's hard for her to hear us.
Hmm.
Dang.
Well, we can attempt calling Mr. Winston Long, Chris Winston, or Jinx. Want to do that? Let's see what. So we can.
Oh, look, she's back. Hold on. She's back. I want to give her a chance to talk. Hopefully this works better now. Let's see. Hey, Benny, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. I am back.
Oh, looks like the delay is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I apologize. Yes, I'm back.
ACB was asking about. He said, "What's your theory on the crime?" And he was saying, "Did you? Was there a time you were trying to do flyers and stuff? What happened with that?"
Okay. For yes. Oh, okay. So yes, ACV. Do I have a theory? Of course I do, but it means nothing. But I will say this. Yes. Here's the story with the flyers. We all got into the brainstorming for Abby and Libby, which Mike Patty dreamed up and Becky Patty ran. So we got into groups and we sent flyers out to all over to Canada, even French speaking flyers. We sent out Spanish speaking flyers into Mexico. We sent out, at least I know, Sorry with the delay, and I'm not good with technology, but I see ACVs. Okay, so here's the story. So we all get together. We plan out all the flyers. So there are so many counties in different states. 3,400 LEs in different states. We sent them all out. We sent them all out. I did do Indiana, possibly 90 something counties. And what was gotten back to me was that LE in counties throughout the states did not know about this. They were very confused because if this was something that the FBI or certain agencies knew about, so what was given back to me was there is a certain thing called a teletype, and the FBI would send this out to different agencies, and they never got that. So it kind of, yes, confused me. So yes, I would send those directly to Becky Patty. Yes. And her friend Brandy's, whatever. And what confused me was if these agencies did not know, so did this really happen, or does this guy exist, or all I was told from Becky Patty, and I do have it in my messages, that she would thank me and forward it over to Tob Lesenby. So my thinking is this is probably all bullshit. I don't know. What do you all guys think about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, Honestly, what I'm starting to believe is that Bridge Guy is total fucking bullshit. And the 6,000 fucking billboards, it was just all a total fucking bullshit scam to make you think there's some guy and that's the guy. It's sounding and feeling more and more like it. And your story makes me think, but yeah.
Well, I will say this. We hit 3,400 different counties. And Mike Patty said that on CrimeCon. Bless his little soul.
3,400 counties with flyers?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I've been thinking this, okay? Imagine this is all very close to home, right? So what you do, you go nationwide with 6,000 fucking billboards, flyers in 3,400 counties. You make it all national TV. You make this killer everywhere, saying, "Look all over there, look all over there, but don't look here." It seems like a huge distraction. Looking back on it.
Exactly. Exactly. Not only was it for the LE and the counties, but we did parks and recreations. Oh gosh. Shelters, churches, you name it. We did it.
I mean, it's like the biggest manhunt in the history of the United States. And they've wasted everyone's time, the thousands of dollars and hours.
Okay, so I see exactly. And this mastermind ACV, oh, big time. And ACV kind of brought up a really good question.
What did Tara tell you about the flyers? Is that the one?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I'm going to tell you what Tara said about the flyers. Okay, here we go. Take a deep breath. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. When we were all breaking our fucking ass doing this, I'm not sure if they won their trip to Disney. Not sure, but who knows? Okay, so here goes. The whole thing with all of this is we all took our states of how and the counties and how we were going to send out these flyers. Apparently, Tara was supposed to send these flyers out to Alaska. Okay, so then we go with that. And apparently the person that was heading this whole flyer thing realized that Alaska never got the flyers. And it was a concern. So she was asked about it, and she told that person to fuck off and dropped her from Facebook.
So you're talking about the person in Alaska who was supposed to be receiving?
No, I'm talking about Tara German. She was supposed to be in charge of sending the flyers. No. Sorry, I was cut off. Tara German was supposed to be doing the flyers for Alaska. And when it was found out that she didn't do it, they were on some kind of Disney trip. And the person that called her out, she told them to fuck off.
Did those flyers ever get to Alaska? Oh, I think you have a bad connection again. Hello?
Hi.
Oh, I know you're having a bad connection, Benny.
Hi?
Okay, I hear you.
Apparently, I think so. Apparently, apparently, us ladies decided to do that. But the funny thing is this. Their dear friend, the Brandy's fucking bullshit lady, had told us probably the best thing is to fax, scan, email it out. And she said, I know it takes a lot of time, but it's worth it for the girls. Are you kidding me?
Hey, maybe we dropped her. Let me see. Just a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Noe's gone too. Noe, are you there? Noe. Ha! Everyone's gone. Noe may have fallen asleep. Everyone's exhausted. Poor people here. Look, let me. All right. I'm sorry, guys. Noe seems to have fallen asleep. Benny's having connections. I got to tell you, Noe works so hard that often when I'm talking to him, he passes out. But maybe they'll come back. But listen here. Until they do. Oh, you're up. You're up. Try again, Noe. Noe. I don't hear you. See, Noe's texting me that he's here, but we don't hear you at all, Noe. You're not muted. You're not muted, Noe. Oh, well, Noe's gone and Benny's gone. All right, well, maybe he'll come back. Let me see. Sorry about that. Are you having bad weather in Indiana? Okay. Maybe that's what up with Noe too. All right, let's see. See what we missed here. I'd really like to hear the rest of Benny. Yeah. We'll have her. I'll message her to come on the next show. Let's see. Noe too. I don't know what happened to Noe. Just found your channel. You're awesome, learning much. You're knowledgeable, not afraid to tell others what you think about them. Noe, click the link if you're able to. It's a lot of work you did. It's a lot of work. We must do it for the girls. If you need anything, I'll be at Disneyland. All right. Let me see. What is Noe saying now? You're back? Okay. Let's try again, Noe. Noe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, just loud and clear now.
Okay. I couldn't hear Benny. I could hear you, but not her. So,
How's the weather right now in Indiana?
oh, the weather's fine. It's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's some issues, but it's straight now, it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, I was paying attention to what she was saying. I couldn't listen to her on the stream, so I muted myself, and then I was listening on my other phone on YouTube. And then when I came back, when she left, when we lost her, I unmuted myself and I kept talking, but you couldn't hear me. So I don't know.
No, but you're back now. You probably had to
Yeah.
come out and come back in.
Yeah, I went out and then came back in. Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Benny, but what did so what did you think, or what do you want to talk about, Noe?
Well, I don't know if there's any questions there. Maybe we can address the chat. Chat.
Oh, there's not much. So let's see. I'll talk about what I was saying is
Okay.
so what I'm thinking is that what Benny was getting at is the extreme amount. Like, think about it: 3,400 counties, or however many she said, 3,000 to 4,000 counties, plus 6,000 fucking billboards. plus all of the TV campaigns and all of the shit. It's just like what it feels like to me possibly is like, what if they knew the whole time that the people who did this were right there in Delphi or in Carroll County? And they chose to make up this bridge guy deal and put it all across the fucking world, knowing these guys were right there. It's like the greatest distraction. See, when I was a little youngster, I was interested in magic, and my family happened to know a practicing magician who had a whole stage show and all of this. And like the very first lessons is that you always do distraction. Like magic is the art of distraction. You make them look at this hand, while look at this, this, while you're slipping something away. It's magic. And it's almost like what we've seen here is magic. They've distracted with thousands of billboards, smoke and mirrors, like Professor Pug says. Yeah. It's like the bridges. Like I think, my opinion, we should be talking about Wilson Bridge. But what have they made you look at the whole time? High Bridge. I think it's a distraction. Look at High Bridge. Look at High Bridge. Don't look by Wilson. Look at Bridge Guy all over here. Bridge Guy all over here. Don't look at this people closest. It's like magic. The art of distraction. Oh, damn, we lost Noe again. Ah, damn it. Yeah, there must be some connection issues with the internet in Indiana with the storms approaching. Because now we lost Noe. Volunteers had to pay for their own flyers. When they requested help with making copies, they were told to fuck you. All right. Anyway, that was my conspiracy theory. But hey, well, I guess my challenge here is oh, there's Noe again. Oh gosh. Okay. Noe.
Yeah, Prof.
Well, this is a clusterfuck. You keep dropping, huh?
Well, no, what happened is that I went out so I could turn my phone off because I'm getting no caller ID calls. Like, remember the one time they did that when I was on a live stream and they kept calling me?
Yeah, why don't you pick one up on
I
the
did,
screen?
but I picked it up, but they won't answer, they won't talk. I picked it up on my other phone. Okay? So I picked it up on this phone and they won't talk. But it's messing up the StreamYard. So I went out and I shut off the phone or do not disturb. So hopefully that helps.
I see. Well, okay. Yeah, so they're trying to mess with you
Mm-hmm.
because you're on here.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was saying, so
Okay.
you notice though, Tommy Frost won't click the link.
Nope.
Chris Long won't click that link. Shit. None of them. But let's talk about the case then. Let's talk about the case since they won't click the link because they're too afraid. Why did nobody in the family check Abby's house? Yeah, why didn't they check Abby's house? Does that make sense to you? Why not check Abby's house? Why? You know what I never got? Why call your mom in another state and say, "Is Libby with you? Have you seen Libby?" Does that ever make sense to you? Oh, damn, we lose you again, Noe?
No, I'm here. No, that doesn't make sense, and that's a good question. Why didn't they check Abby's house? I'm sorry, I was reading ACV's comment.
Yeah, so why not check Abby's
Mhm.
house? And also, why not check Logan Holder's house? Why not check uh, with Derek? Why do we call Carrie and ask if is Libby with you when it's physically impossible that Libby was with her?
Right.
Flyers, billboards, the big bridge guy, boogeyman, all breadcrumbs going in the wrong direction. Any direction except for the fucking truth.
It seemed like between, what was it? They say it was like 3:30 when Derek German arrived to pick up the girls. From that time up until, the nighttime, they they focused on, the bridge and the trails. But I mean, also, we don't know what they did. I mean, maybe someone did reach out to them, but we've never heard anything about it.
I mean, it's like nothing ever mattered. That's why when you look at this whole fucking thing and you look at all the statements and the whole narrative, the whole storyline, and you try to reverse engineer it, nothing fucking makes sense. Nothing at all. But these narrative pushers want to force this shit down your throat to make it make sense. But when you really try to reverse engineer it, nothing makes sense at all because nothing was sensible, you know, which leads you to believe that it's all make believe. It's all a made up fucking story. Because nothing is rational. Everything that they try to say that we did this because of this, because of this, because of this, and this, nothing makes sense because it's nothing that you would ever really do. You reverse engineer it, doesn't work because it never fucking worked because that's not how things work. Abby lived less than a mile away from the south side of bridge, directly down the private drive. Private drive becomes Abby's road, and you don't go. So what if you had some very important people overseeing this whole situation? What if those very important people are still involved in holding positions of power to this day, 7 years later? I mean,
That's
they're not going to let it go. They're going to hold those positions of power, they think, forever because they'll never give those positions up and let an actual investigation happen and the truth come out. They're going to hold on to that shit for life.
they
It's power. It's like a firm grip on power over this community and over this narrative because it has to be held tightly or it's all going to fall apart because it crumbles. It just crumbles.
Then also you got those ones who have decided to step down. Those people in power who have either stepped down or say I quit, don't want nothing with it. That's kind of shady.
Yeah, getting the fuck out of harm's way. Yeah. Yeah, they held on long enough. That's what I'm getting at. Because what if Shane Evans and Toe Blesenby were part of this from the start? That's why they haven't gone anywhere. All they're doing is strengthening their grip. And now they've held on long enough that Shane Evans can replace Gull, who replaced Diener.
It's interesting, the lateral moves too, man. You know, like the police chief, Mullins, is that his name?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
those
Well,
lateral
that's what
moves,
I
and
mean.
now
It's like chessboard. They keep positioning themselves differently. Same
right,
people.
right. That's very interesting as well.
Yeah. So makes you wonder about this. The community makes you wonder about the troll farm. Troll farm. Jinx 13 says that she was there for the search. Tommy Frost was alleged to be there for the search, according to a reporter, which he denies now. John Weaver was there, worked at Subaru with Jinx's husband, boyfriend. Thomas Miller worked at Packers. Who else worked at Packers? Subaru, Packers, Chrysler. Law enforcement. I mean, what's going on with these people? Like, did they have lunchroom meetings and say, "Hey, we're going to do this whole situation. Let's get together"? Volunteer firemen.
Yep. And
The whole witnesses. I've always said the witnesses and searchers are the most fucking suspect in the whole deal for me, for my narrative.
Then you got your Greenos and your Cody Patties. Was there, wasn't there? Was there at this time, but no, it was
Better than the Keegan
no,
Klein.
I wasn't there at all.
Yeah. Garrett Kurtz.
There you go.
You got the whole fucking group. They're not there. They're not there. I wasn't there. I was there. I don't know where I was. No alibi. Who knows?
ACV, can we get John Weaver up on panel? Oh.
Yeah, let's call him. Let's call him.
Let's call him.
Now you gotta admit, okay. Good point. Bobby Smith says this. A lot of that town, maybe no more. Yeah, because 3,000 fucking people. You're telling me in a small town, a town that small, nobody knows nothing? Nobody knows nothing. In a town that small.
I was laughing at Pitbull's comment. Greeno and Cat crawled right out of that meth pipe from under the bridge. Well, yeah, man. It's like my friend says. The answer's not too far. It's right there, man. Now,
This answer has been in front of your face the whole fucking time. And people, like I said, the magic was the distractions and the narrative and the timeline.
the timeline.
Yeah, everything's been distraction, distraction, distraction.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is right there the whole fucking time. Yeah, and what happened to Julia? What happened to her? Why was she in tears when she said she's shutting it down? Abby's home was never checked because the Klan was too dumb to cover that base. I don't believe the girls were ever on that bridge. For Pitt says, I told you if I knew something, I'd tell you.
Scott says Julia was harassed by the trolls.
Is that what did it? Because these same people have taken everyone up. Now that's what I was getting at. Just like these higher ups have been in this since day one, and they've moved laterally all over different positions. What about these trolls? What about these trolls? Where have they been for 7 years? When we know they were in there in February 2017, these same fucking trolls were there and involved. They were involved with searches, quote unquote. So what have these trolls been doing for 7 fucking years? Why has every YouTuber who's questioned this narrative been run off? What happened to Crimes, Conspiracy, and Coffee? What happened to Clutch? Yeah, it was so disturbing to see her in tears. It was. I mean, she almost made me cry watching her. It was a gut punch. Where's Rod Holt? Exactly. So was Copfax. Yeah, Copfax fears for his life daily. Happens to Carroll County Comet. Meow touched the third rail, gets destroyed by the trolls. Yeah, they tried with their damnedest, and it was fucking Chris Long. Chris fucking Long tried his damnedest to take her down. Who strikes somebody in that way? And not only that, he set them up. Let's talk about the setup. Okay, let's talk about the setup. What does Chris Long do? Chris Long offers every creator that covers Delphi. What does he offer them? Do you know, Noe?
Yes, he invites you to use his footage, his content in a very professional manner. Tries to gain trust. He did it to my friend Kishti, Crime to Sleep, and many others have told me, and I've seen receipts as well. So he'll invite you, and then he gains trust and tries to kind of control what you put up, etc. And when you don't agree, he strikes you for using his content. He did it to Meow.
The very content that he
Pride
offers.
Kishti, many others. He asked you, right, Prof?
Yeah, he sent me a big old
email.
Use my content. Here's my content. Feel
Way
free
back
to use it.
when
Guess what?
you
He was
started.
fucking stupid. He didn't know that I knew Tommy Frost was his best friend. He thought I would take the fucking bait. But there was no fucking way, because I knew Tommy Frost was his best friend. There was no fucking way I was taking that bait. Meow took the bait. And she almost lost her channel. You know what? Right now, Tom Webster is at risk. Tom Webster took the bait. I've seen that content.
They took me down.
They took you down.
But I messed up. Yeah, I messed up by using their content and shit.
Now you see that how many times have they taken Raffi down?
Yep.
Why did Kelsey keep saying Abby and Libby had on her gray sweaters? Because Betsy Blair saw Kelsey and Bree Wilbur in gray sweaters on her way back from the bridge. Because there was no Abby and Libby.
Read ACV's comment.
Getting there. Let's see.
That's what happened.
Why did they go after Meow? Because she talked about what's not allowed to be talked about. Someone encourages the prof to set up a channel. The prof gets a following, 1,000 subs, starts getting 500 views on daily lives. The prof touches a third rail, gets trolled to oblivion.
Mm.
Yes. Ruined my life for the past fucking year. It's called the community. They think that they own the community
Yep.
that chooses to discuss the Delphi murders. Raffi is like Lazarus. Yeah, he keeps rising from the dead. Meow talked about Richard Allen and the white supremacists and Flora, and somehow it all being connected. Boom. She got to go. She got to go. Yeah, freckled because she started to advocate for Richard Allen. If the girls were murked, by the afternoon, they needed someone else to pretend to be the girls or to be seen by Betsy Blair. Yeah, exactly. They want to own our thoughts. Well, they thought everyone was stupid, and it seemed like, remember when I said that the problem the huge mistake they made this too intriguing. Okay? They made it too intriguing. They made this rich guy video and this Abby Snapchat, and it was too intriguing. By doing that, they brought too many eyes onto this case. And that's the downfall. That's the downfall. Ruckus is the shadiest one. I don't think he gets laid at home. He hates women. Yes, he's a woman hater. That's for sure. His poor wife. It's like Rick Snay. I really feel sorry for his wife. But I mean, fortunately, she seems to have kind of sidestepped that, or find her happiness, and maybe Ruckus's wife will. Oh, we call those, you know what we call those? The big deals, Lisa. We call those the big deals. How do you interpret the role of Cheyenne and her friend in the play? Made for TV murder narrative scenario. I am late as usual. Hello, Nancy. And how many people, I mentioned this last time, how many people involved in this scenario or in this discussion or in this whole scenario, how many people are involved in the mortuary business? Noe, what you reading?
I'm just reading comments.
All right.
I'm reading the comments.
The girls' blood were drained. I mean, one thing we know, it's very apparent that these girls were fairly free of blood when they were placed where they were placed. We also know there's a butcher shop across the street that our good friend, retired Master Trooper Joe, has a lot of suspicions about over there across the street.
Yeah, everybody keeps calling that area the scene of the crime. That's not the scene of the crime. That's the scene of where they stage the girls. That's, here's an interesting precaution. Crime scene was the size of a football field.
How? Yeah, how? How if it's just where they were laid? How? Fort Pitt says there was activity and heavy police presence at the Mears barn. Yeah, remember that helicopter footage?
Mm-hmm.
That was their staging area or something. There were so many vehicles and the whole lab and everything there. If you look at that, if you look at that footage.
Yeah, but did they go in there? I mean, it seems like they just used it as a post.
Yeah, I don't know.
They used
Fort
it as
Pitt says they thought someone may have changed clothes by the Mears barn, allegedly.
oh, that one's a good one right there.
Yeah,
Because
good one.
yep.
I mean, remember what Jay said, that when he went in there, there's all this pornography up all on the walls and ceiling everywhere. And she's an old German Baptist lady. He's an ISP trooper. The trooper in full uniform with the hat on and everything. She doesn't even say, "Oh, excuse the shit here. Excuse the porn." No, she pretends it doesn't even exist.
Linda K. Johnson and Mike Patty apparently went there before entering the trails to search.
Oh, really?
That's
Well, Linda K. Yeah, put some more about that, Linda K. Elaborate. I haven't heard that. Ooh, ACV has a spicy question. A real spicy. This is some Creole cooking, ACV. This is Creole cooking. Do you believe the Odiner angle is the right interpretation, or is this more a meth gang collateralization of a debt gone wrong? Ooh,
Yeah.
that's the question I have, and my answer to it is I think the Odiners were set up. I think it's a meth gang gone wrong, setting up Ron Logan and the Odinist with the rune-like configurations. But let's see what old commentary we have on that. Football field under bridge shenanigans. Mirrors barn recently found video footage of the CSI in the barn. Photo flashes seen. Oh, I haven't seen that. They sent the dogs away.
Okay, is German Baptist Amish Diamond Eyes?
I don't think so. No.
No. Pitbull says yes, more or less, and kind of yes and no. But they, I dated an old German Baptist when I first moved to Indiana, so I know a little bit about them. They're very similar. The difference is that, to my knowledge, is like they are allowed to use vehicles. They have phones. They have power. Versus the Amish use buggies, no power. But like the old order is very similar in the way they worship and things like that, a tradition. So, but they're not really Amish.
Louise said the CPS building burnt and torn down. Yeah, another red fucking flag. CPS building gone. Linda K says it made me think Mike Patty was at the trails long before it was stated. Yeah, where's his cell phone data to prove his whereabouts? And what about that Marathon gas station? And what about the Marathon? What up, Phoenix? What up, Phoenix? Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I would love to talk to you some other time, privately. The German Baptists are closer to the Mennonites. Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Then closer to that than the Amish.
Pitbull says that some old order can have electricity. Yep. Like
Pacers lost.
I mean, like the German Baptists, the Mennonites. What's the other ones? The Erlamites. What are they? I can't think of it. But yeah, the Amish don't have power. They don't. They don't use cell phones. They don't use phones. They don't use TVs.
Well, you know why? They're getting ready for the shit hit the fan scenario, which will happen.
Damn, Diamond Eye says she lives in a city of 4 million. My goodness.
Big city. Big city. Do you have Discord? Hell no. You don't want that fucking trouble. Look, take my advice. Take it from me. You don't want that fucking trouble. No, you don't.
Nobody, nothing. I believe so, too. My buddy was a higher up at the CAT, and he could come and go as he needed. Can you?
I don't know what I'm lost on that comment.
Okay. CAT is referring to the company Caterpillar. Let's see what he says.
Oh, they split off. There's different shoots. Yeah, it's like different branches. But I don't know. I don't know much about it to be able to speak on it. It's kind of, I'd rather bypass it.
Oh, 10 million in her country in a city of 4 million. That's half her
County. Yeah.
county or Oh, county. Okay.
10 million in my county, 4 million in my city. Yeah, that's those big cities. Big cities.
Yeah, goodness, bye.
I'm tired of big cities, but I'll probably end up close to one again. All right, so
This crevice is right. Amish can use cars and planes, but cannot operate them. That's true.
cannot operate them. Yes, they can just ride it.
A lot of the Amish workers get picked up for work. They got these vans that go and pick them up, take them to work, and then they take them back to their homes. But they can't drive, but they can use them. True. But typically, Amish will travel by horse and buggy. In my experience up here, 25 years in north central Indiana, seen many of the Amish communities around Goshen, Napanee, Manchester.
Yeah, they are prepared for when shit hits the fan. That's what I mean, sweet Caroline. That's the point to me, is that you're living your life in a way where when shit hits the fan, it doesn't matter much for you because you're already grooving. All right, well, hey, I have to do a restroom break. Noe, would you mind? You have anything you want to address while we're taking a little break?
Are you getting ready to? I just noticed that you've been up for 5 hours.
Yes, because I'm waiting on the troll farm to enter, and I'm trying to wait them out. They troll farm doesn't want to click the link. I mean, Tommy Frost all of a sudden doesn't know how to click a StreamYard link.
If you wanna take your restroom break, go ahead. I'll read some comments. Maybe I'll make a phone call since they don't want to hit the link. And when you come back, I could start wrapping up. I mean, obviously, you've been here longer than me, but I'll wait on you. I ain't got nothing to do right now.
Oh, they don't want. Well, all of a sudden they forgot how to hit a StreamYard link. They just, after years of.
I got all their numbers. We're gonna call them.
Yeah, years of easily being able to jump on any fucking troll farm live stream that exists at the drop of a hat. All of a sudden, they don't know how to hit the StreamYard link, especially Tommy Frost, because
but they want to go quack 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 on their vicarious vigilante, on their dummies.
Well, yeah, he's gonna go quack 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 for the next month over this one live stream, but he can't hit the link tonight for some reason.
They won't take a call. They won't hit the link. Yeah.
No, nowhere to be found.
Watch tomorrow.
The people want to know.
We're gonna.
But I mean, my point is this:
putting stickers on vehicles.
Notice what I called this. I called this stream the greatest Delphi live stream you'll ever see. Reflections on the community, because the community wants to know, and they don't want to address the community. But they want to claim that they alone are the community. Yo, Noe, I'm sorry. Did I talk over you? Oh, there you are. Yeah, you hear me, Noe? Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Prof?
Yeah, can you hear me?
And I couldn't for a minute. So I closed my camera and I'm like working on 10 to 20% on this other phone. So I keep having to charge it up. I don't know if could be that. I don't know. But I can hear you now. I think it is because I plugged it in and I could hear you.
Okay, you're loud and clear. Well, look, yeah, I'm going to dip out for 5 minutes and let you address the chat, and I'll be back. Right. I'm ranting and raving because it's infuriating. It's like they talk all the shit in the world, but can't click the link when I'm giving them a 5-hour opportunity, now going into 6 hours, they all of a sudden forgot how to use StreamYard. But oh look, Phoenix is here. Let you and Phoenix talk for a moment, and then I'll come join you in 5 minutes. Sounds good?
Okay, dope.
Yeah, Phoenix is cool peeps. So let me let him in. Okay. Hey, Phoenix, welcome.
What's up, Prof?
What's up, man? I'll be right back. Welcome. Let me introduce you to Noe.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay. Hi, Phoenix. How are you doing? I've seen you on several chats. I don't know much about you, but you seem pretty cool.
All right.
Let's entertain the chat, brother. Or if you want to talk about something, go ahead.
Nah, I just figured I'd jump in and let Prof take his break here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the help. How are you doing, man?
Hey, doing pretty good. Pacers lost. That sucks.
Oh yeah, I saw that comment.
We're going home, so.
Was it a good game?
It was a pretty good game. Yeah, the first 2 games have both been pretty decent games, so it's fun to play the Knicks again for sure in the playoffs.
Right on.
So what are we talking about here? I'm trying to get caught up.
Well, we were talking about the timeline. We talked about who was there, who was not, the area, that was searched, etc. And of course, Prof knows a lot more in regards to that, and he can address the chat a little better. And I just kind of, I talk about what I can relate to, which is more, by now that I was incarcerated, and that's how I got into this, when the Kagan Klein was a hot. I still think it's still hot, but a lot of people disagree, so that's fine. So that's how I came into it. But yeah, we were talking about the search and how things just don't make sense.
I mean, I would 100% agree with that part of it. I mean, I try not to have like really strong opinions on most things, but the search part not making any sense is something that, I mean, it's easy to play to people that haven't actually been to the trails and been down around that area and just kind of walked it. But like, for anybody that's local and that's done that, or anybody that's just been there a few times, that shit don't really play. Like it doesn't make sense
in such a small time frame. Where they're trying the narrative they're trying to push. Like, I've been to that bridge, to the trails. I lost count, maybe close to 8 to 10 times. I've walked everywhere there is to walk, the different trails, the main one, and then the other one. I think it's a 502 and the 501, or however that goes. I've been to the cemetery. I've crossed the creek. I've been to the site of the staging many times. I've been to Wilson Bridge, and it just seems like my friend says, there was no way they could have missed not finding those girls.
Right.
If it did happen from what they say, between 1:30 and 3:30, something like that, there was no way. And so
it's really hard to imagine that would be possible. Like, we don't have like a really good like timeline and theory of what actually happened from the state, so it's hard to, like, they make it hard to refute, because we don't even know what they're really saying actually happened, or when it happened, and like where they, like what the movements were, or any of that. Like, we're kind of guessing on it and trying to speculate based on the very little that they've given us. And you've been there more than I have, but I've been there a number of times, not four or five times, but I've
Mm-hmm.
walked that area like a lot in the times that I've been there, and so I've been to all those same places.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I haven't personally crossed across the creek, but I think that's probably, in my opinion, one of the least relevant things that's at play.
Yep. I agree with you. Yeah, I've
But
been everywhere. I've been under the bridge. I've crossed the rail, the new rails. I crossed over them and walked on the old bridge. I've been to the drive, the private drive, and yeah.
have you ever driven up that private drive from coming south?
No, I haven't driven up. I just walked it. I typically, every time I've been there, the very first time I was there, I didn't know better, so I parked at the main trailhead by the Freedom Bridge.
That's usually where I park.
And you know, as I learned more and stuff, every time I've been there, I parked across the street from the mirrors. I just kind of shoved my vehicle onto the grass because there's a sign that says no parking, and
Gotcha.
I'm not gonna. Yeah. So
You're
you know,
Joey.
What did you say?
So I bring up like driving because it's something I've just noticed, like kind of looking at the lay of the map, and you know, the you can drive straight up that. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. Like if you go south in that private drive, it's no longer a private drive. It's a regular road, and
it becomes a road. I don't know where that private drive starts. I've never been to that. I know that Tommy Frost had a video once he drove up to that private drive, and you could see some homes at the start of the drive, and then it becomes private. But I don't know where that's at. What road does it exit into? 300 North?
No, I mean that's gonna run. The 300 North runs east and west. So
East and west. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I forget the name of that road, but it does run like right by Indiana Packers and like the landfill, and just, I mean, it's just interesting, like how you can, like, I don't know, you know, it's a direct shot that just.
Yeah, I guess that's one area that I haven't visited or stopped by.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to add something new every time I go. The most recent time I went, I had gone the typical route of, like, you know, you go off into the woods in the trail, like right next to the start of the bridge, and you know, you can go down that hill, and which I've gone down pretty much every time I've been there. And this time they had it like kind of, they had it marked of where the property line was a lot better, and they had a lot of purple spray paint on all the trees, and they had fixed up some of the fencing before that. So since they had just recently done that, and I was by myself, and you know, I didn't want to cross across that, so I did something different. I was just like hoofed it up through the creek bed, and then just along which, and it's basically all the same. Either you walk right through the creek bed, or you walk on one side of it, or you walk on the other side of it. But up to the cemetery, and like, I mean, the cemetery is just, it's so close to the scene that, like, people don't realize, like, oh, this is an easy access point. Like, it's the easiest imaginable access point.
Right.
And like, going in and out from that area, the easiest, closest, quickest way. It's not like anything crazy. I mean, like, you know, it's not treacherous terrain just to go down from the cemetery to the river, or to the creek. I mean, it's
to the creek. Yeah.
it's pretty simple.
The first time I went, I exited through the cemetery. I came in the Mears entrance, and then I did the walk across the creek and stuff, and then I exited through the cemetery. But I walked up the hill, then down into the ravine, then back up the where the ravine goes back up. And when I came to the top, I could see the cemetery, but boy, it was hard. And going back, I realized that you don't have to go down to the ravine. You can just all along the ravine, there's actually a little, like, you can see a trail that it'll take you straight down to that plain where, or the bank, whatever, where the bodies were found, and it's a lot easier. So yeah,
Right.
it's right there, man. It's like, man, you can be there in 5-6 minutes
And
from the
yeah,
cemetery.
I don't even know if it's that long. And especially
Yeah,
if you're going downhill, that's an easy. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
only uphill. It's only uphill that's ever difficult. Going downhill is always easy.
Yeah, 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 man. The first time I went up to the ravine and down, and I was looking for the cemetery, but when I came down and I went back up, I saw the cemetery. I'm like, man, I was out of breath. But I made it, I made it. And more most more recently, especially when I've been with my friend, the state trooper, dude, there's all you got to do is walk along the ravine, and it takes you straight down there, and it's downhill too when going to, and coming back up, it's a little, you got to go uphill for a little bit, then it gets flat, then you're at the cemetery, you just cross the gate and you're there. And it might not even be 6 minutes. You're right, it's the closest point to get to that area. um, I don't know, there's different stories as to how the bodies were taken there.
Yeah, and I want to make a point. What's up, Phoenix and Noe? I'm back.
What's up, bro?
That's rough.
I want to make a point that I says here that I've been saying in the past few shows that's absolutely correct, is that if you're on the trail to the high bridge and then you take that little left down that trail, go down the hill through that little ravine, I mean, you're immediately on top of the crime scene. You're on top of the bodies. If you walk down that trail, you're on top of the bodies. So tell me, how in the fucking world would they ever miss those girls if they were actually there?
I mean, the other point of that is that they seem to have some like knowledge or acceptance that, like, there may have been an accident related to, falling off the bridge and like searching along the creek bank. And so you're specifically looking for along, the land right next to the creek bank, which is exactly where they were. So, I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where like even one or two like dedicated individuals wouldn't have come across that exact spot within an hour or two, period. And that's it. Like, somehow it didn't happen. So you gotta like think about what happened to prevent that. Either, I mean, there is some evidence that suggests that people were misdirected from that location, and but it's either that or they weren't there. Like, it's hard to get around those possibilities. It's or nobody was really trying to look, which that seems to be the least likely. Like, I can't imagine no one was trying to look. Like, somebody was trying to look. I mean, we've got accounts of people actually trying. I think so if you rank them, most likely is they weren't there. Second most likely is they were being diverted, or though those might be pretty close. And then a far third most likely is people weren't really trying to look. That just seems unimaginable, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, and remember that Eric Williams said very clearly that those girls were not there. Like he's a country boy, him and his buddy, like they would have fucking seen those girls just by.
I think Eric is very compelling in his accounting of everything, and that he sounds like, that's what I'm saying. That's the evidence that at least one person was out there trying and looking, and he didn't find them. I'm just telling you, like, I mean, you would have found them.
So they weren't there.
I think that's probably the most likely thing, is that they weren't there.
And not only that, remember, like what we just found out is that the phone by 5:44, that phone was either off or wasn't there.
Right. I mean, the more information that we get, the more that supports that scenario that they weren't there.
Brother, the funniest thing is that the more information we get in general, everything is crumbling. I mean, the timeline, the clothing the girls have on, the it's just like everything is falling apart with every little drip we get.
Well, I mean, it's important to recognize that, like, you know, we don't really have a state narrative. Like, we've got, I mean, for lack of a better word, we've got a propaganda narrative. We've got, you know, YouTuber narrative of, and then it's just been accepted, and we think this is what the state narrative is, but it isn't really the state narrative. It's, you know, it might be the most popular narrative, but the state hasn't said that's exactly what happened. So we want to attribute it to them, but they haven't claimed that.
That is a very, very good point you're making. Yes, we have this social media narrative, but we don't have a state narrative. And then we have our somewhat pieced together defense narrative that's slowly coming together, filing by filing. So yeah, it's still nothing.
It's more of a Delphi community dash social media narrative.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the primary narrative, the popular narrative, has been driven by, like, you know, almost one person. Why this person would be the person to drive any narrative, beyond me. But, like, you know, the movements and the timeline and everything that's, like, kind of accepted and then attributed to the state, although the state doesn't say this, it's gray hues. I mean, it just is. Like, that's what happened. And I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen anything that's happened on social media here recently, but, like, I mean, might get in trouble for mentioning this, but, you know, the psychologist that they're wanting to get some confession information or statement information from, I mean, shockingly, she's been in all these Delphi groups, and she's listed Gray Hughes as her number one person that she watched on YouTube.
I am well aware of that. I am well aware.
I mean, can you imagine? It's shocking. It's shocking.
Wow. Huh.
It's just as shocking as the concept of Shane Evans becoming a Carroll County judge, and possibly the possibility existing that he could become a judge in this case should Gold be removed or stepped down.
I don't think he could become a judge in this case, but I mean, him becoming a judge isn't that shocking. He was pretty popular, you know, like, mayor, and, like, you know, or a political figure in his path. So I mean, I don't find it that shocking that he would run for something.
Do you guys
successful in doing that?
Do you guys know if he's got a law background, a law education?
I mean, he must, because he's the deputy prosecutor. Yeah.
Okay, right. But he's never practiced law, right? Or, I mean,
he absolutely has to have a law degree.
Okay.
I've
be
had that
deputy
question.
prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to my understanding, he's pretty educated. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's been successful in what he's done, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that people have their eye on that judge position.
Okay, now here's another question. Is he a circuit judge or superior court? Because if he's superior court, he wouldn't, I don't think he would be I mean uh most jurisdictions here in the counties in the state of Indiana have circuit court and superior court. And this case obviously has to be tried in the circuit court.
He is a circuit court.
Okay, so
Carroll County.
Okay, so then there's another judge who does the superior court, right?
I mean, Carroll County's small, and they only ever had a couple judges. So, I mean, I think the scenario that you got to kind of watch out for is, if this trial isn't conclusive, what happens with a next trial? Because you know the reason that the Judge Gull is on this case is because Diener recused himself. So this Indiana Supreme Court had to select a special judge. That's not the normal process. There doesn't have to be a special judge in this case. If this trial were to be retried, it probably wouldn't be the special judge again. They would go through the same process. So yes, you could. I mean, I would think that Shane Evans would also have to recuse himself for based on his background and positioning and involvement in everything up to this point, but he doesn't have to. Judges get a lot of leeway and do whatever the hell they want.
Now, touching back on the psychologist, Louise is alleging that she is Fig's source in the whole prosecution side,
I mean, I think that we need to be careful as far as alleging things that we don't have actual evidence for.
I'm stating it so that she might elaborate, but this is she's bringing that up.
I think that you could certainly speculate something along those lines.
Yeah. Welcome in, Meow. I see Meow has come around, and welcome, Meow. We miss you.
Ashbrook is here too, I think.
Hey, what up, Michael? I'm just checking out the comments really quickly.
Yep.
All right, yeah, Michael says evidence would be nice before slinging the shit. Well, I totally agree.
Absolutely, Mike.
But I mean, getting back to your point, Phoenix, the fact that she's a member of several Delphi groups and very familiar with Gray Hughes's whole bag, it's I mean, if she's going to be providing evidence of his guilt, it just seems inappropriate at best.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, it's very concerning that. I mean, we're talking about a medical doctor or a psychologist, and I mean, I'm not trying to shit on any particular channels, but you're biased by what you consume, and we've already got evidence of what this particular person was consumed, and look, we're all in this we're all in this like sphere of like being impacted by what we consume and like having opinions on this case, and like everybody knows how this case is, and like the rabbit holes that you go down, and like how consuming it can be. For somebody to like have that like background and be impacted by all that, but then impartially contribute to like testimony of some sort. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, it just goes to the whole thing. Like often say that these troll farm primarily operate through confession by projection, and what I've noticed very as a very strong talking point is that they are extremely interested in what you could what they would call contaminating the jury pool. And for me, it's the same thing. There is if they're so worried uh, about influencing the jury pool, don't they understand that like this woman being so engaged in the case and then being a crucial part of prosecution? I mean, same thing there, that she's contaminated, for lack
I
of a
mean,
better
I would
term.
say it's much more concerning than that, because the jury pool thing, I mean, they're going to go through their process to try to select an impartial jury, and most likely they, for the most part, will. And I don't know what people are doing. Like, if you think that you're like going to really, it's not a it's it's not a real like thing where like whatever narratives are put out there that they're going to impact the jury pool, that's a minimal concern. It really is. They're going to weed anybody that's been impacted out for the most part. So I mean, it's just not a thing. The what's far more concerning are people that are like actually will have an impact. The jury's going to be for the most part a clean slate, and they're going to hear it. Getting witnesses up on the stand that are impacted by narratives is far more concerning. If anybody's been paying attention to the
Well, absolutely.
Karen Reed case, like that's what, like, I mean, you've got witnesses going up in the stand and just lying their asses off. Like that's the sort of thing that you have to be far more concerned about, like how our justice system is working, where something like that is allowed.
Yes, welcome in, Meow. I see Meow joined us. Hey, Meow.
Hi,
I'm
Meow.
listening. I'm just listening and like learning. I mean, I haven't been keeping super up with it, but I was kind of shocked. I was shocked to see that it was delayed again, and oh, I was gutted. But
Well, I'm pretty grateful because I think that unfortunately for Alan, he has to be subjected to more time in a lockup. But maybe
yeah,
I looked at it as this is 5 more months for more truth to rise to the surface
yeah.
before railroading an individual into a potential bad situation. So all I want is truth.
I think that's what we all want. I mean, of course, I just feel so. I'm just not sure how much he's going to be able to take it, and what exactly is going on with the, I guess, the defense. Because I mean, for as far as I understood, they always felt like pretty confident that they wanted to do a speedy trial. So it just seems like there's something else going on behind the scenes, and I'd love to hear from someone who is like maybe at the hearing as well.
Oh yeah, I was meaning to do that earlier, but I'll wait. I'll do it later. But I was meaning to read through some notes from the yesterday's hearing that kind of gives a good view into what happened.
Yeah, I've heard different accounts that are some of the different accounts have been very jarringly different. Like some people hear one thing, some people hear something else. I suspect that some people heard things that just absolutely didn't even happen, and they're just like putting their own like biases onto reality, and it's that, and then that gets propagated. And
Wait, can you give examples just so I like have a, or you don't have to name names.
I'm still kind of working through it. So like one the thing that I'm probably gonna have to like, you know, kind of work through a little bit. If I don't expect anybody to actually listen to Murder Sheet. That's probably on here, but they didn't actually attend this most recent one, and they had a couple of guests on that did attend it. But I've gotten very differing accounts from what their guests claim to have heard and what Murder Sheet commented on. That doesn't appear. It seems to be very conflicted. There was an assertion that the there was an assertion that Gull was very upset with the defense team because they were responsible for it getting out that Richard Allen had been moved to Allen County Jail, which has to be. I think it's false. I don't think Gull was actually upset about that
That's
at
pretty
all.
much public record. I didn't think that
Well,
was.
that's exactly it. Because I was the first person, as far as I know, I was the first person that put it out.
Yeah.
And then Barbara McDonald followed it up 15 minutes later. I got my information from the state. Barbara McDonald cited Allen County Sheriff's Department as giving her the information. And that was 15 minutes later. Like, which part of this is coming from the defense team? Absolutely can't be true. It just can't be true. They also put his mugshot up. They've got his booking information on the Allen County Sheriff's website. That's not the defense. That is the state. And he's in the Savin system. And that is not the defense. That is the state. And you got Murder Sheet saying some like crazy stuff, like of how terrible it is that the defense team would do that to their own client. Well,
I'm sorry. I mean, I just.
So is it also terrible when it was actually definitely the state that did those things? Like, you have the same opinion. Like, does your opinion change based on who you think did what? Because it shouldn't.
Exactly.
Like,
I
if you
think that they've
wrong,
kind of
then you think it's wrong. So stand by that. And also, you made some false claims. And if you're going to claim to be a journalist, retract that shit.
Well, I think it goes to the concept of that because people are so subject to their own perspective bias. I mean, it's really cameras in the courtroom have no bias, and it's just unbelievable to me that in this day and age, with this individual who had been an advocate for transparency, quote unquote, and cameras in the courtroom, that she would be denying it outright. With
Who's
this
the advocate for cameras in the courtroom?
Judge Gull herself was supposed to have been one of the ones leading the charge for cameras in the courtroom in years prior.
That's 100% true.
Yeah. I thought an interesting statement from yesterday was Gull saying, when I send emails, they end up in pleadings, and that's not how I like to do business. So now she's not going to email.
Yeah, actually, I read that and I was like, okay, I mean, you're penalizing the defense by restricting any communication with the judge because that's kind of like not like she's the judge. And if she's going to be afraid of the public scrutiny, that's her job, is to be an impartial judge. That is her job, is to maintain that public trust in her discretion. But she's, I mean, if you're upset that people are having an issue with that, that like, you need to look inwards. The call is coming from inside the house, sweetie. It's how you're conducting yourself that you don't like the backlash.
So it's probably been buried on Twitter, but Kara Wenicky had commented on specifically on that issue, and there's not a real reason to have much in the emails. She's been overstepping. Like, she's been doing so little as far as, like, I mean, one of the biggest, like, critiques of her is that she could fall under, like, a lazy judge, like,
oh yeah,
scenario, that she just hasn't been doing the things that she needs to have been doing all this case.
like, I chalk up a lot of her conduct.
You're not supposed to be conducting your business on, to my understanding, not a lawyer. You're not supposed to be conducting your business, like, through the emails. That should be very limited to ministerial types of things, like very basic things. You're not having substantive, like, legal conversations with the judge through email. Like, that would be totally improper, and it may have been that she's already overstepped that by trying to do that. So, like, it shouldn't be that big a deal. They need to be I mean, they need to be doing this in court, and that's not the worst scenario. But, like, we also everybody was in court, and they only held court for an hour. Like, you could have kept going. Like, you could have heard the motion in limine. You could have heard whatever. Like, everybody's there. You got witnesses in the courtroom. You got Brad Holder in the courtroom. Like,
I heard that. What was that about, Brad?
Let's get to some business. Like, just do it. Like, why do you keep putting it off? You just keep kicking the can down the road.
I'm glad I wasn't. I would just be staring directly at Brad. I would not be able to, like.
Well, I agree with. I read Carol's statement on Twitter, and the administrative issues. I mean, it's business, okay? Business emails, good business. I was always taught in my professional life that it's the point of emails is it's business letters, and. But another concept, or another highlight, a statement that blew me away, and I wish I would have been there to hear with my own 2 ears, is Razi saying, "You don't know anything about this case," respectfully, and it's absolutely correct. I mean, how could she not have totally consumed and understood that Frank's memorandum? It boggles the mind. And I understand if she doesn't agree, it's fine, but don't you have to thoroughly review to even understand if you agree with the fact finding or not, and what's being put across? I mean, she's just been. I just feel it's just the arrogance that I sense coming from the bench is just. I'm flabbergasted. I'm just floored. I'm like,
honestly, like, I'm also, like, I understand that, like, exasperation, because I know that, like, as a professional, you're always like, thank you, Your Honor. But, like, I think he was saying what a lot. That was a long time coming, and truly, I mean, she I don't even think she, like, fought back on it. I think what she said was, under, like, the person that had reported that she said, I have experience, I don't need to know about this case, or something along those lines.
I'm too busy. I got other things to do.
Yeah, it was just okay. Weird.
I mean, even if in the instance that I think that she probably perused through the Frank's memorandum. I think what her claim was that she hadn't reviewed all the exhibits to it because there was a lot more. You know, we talk about 136 pages or whatever being a lot. There was a lot more attached to that.
Right.
I think that's what she didn't actually ever get through. But even if she had read all of that, what Rosie says is 100% true. She still doesn't know shit about the case because, I mean, what she should know is a rough, like, understanding of how many freaking witnesses are going to be brought on both sides. That for her to claim that she has no idea how many witnesses they're going to bring, like, that's absurd. Like, it's shocking that she would say such a thing because she has to know those. She's not even reading those filings as far as, hey, this is the witness list. They're like, count them. You know how many witnesses there are going to be. You can't say, like, I have no idea. You have great idea. But Rosie is 100% clear, like in his right to say she doesn't know shit about what their defense is going to be. She has no right to know that. There's no, like, protocol for her to ever know what the evidence is going to be provided in trial, what their defense strategy is going to be provided. They don't have to tell her that. And they won't tell her that. They're not going to tell any judge that. That belongs on their side wholly, and no one has to know anything about it. And she doesn't know. What she should have done is what he said she should have done. You have to ask us. What, like, we have to work here. Like, we have to work through this process. And she just wants to make it, like, fit this very narrow scope of what she thinks it should be. Sorry, that's not what this is going to be. This is not going to be the same sort of trial as any other trial you've ever had, period. Like, if anybody knows this case, this is not going to be a case that is like any other case anybody has ever seen. It just isn't. She's never had a case like this. No matter how much experience she's had in her entire career, it has not prepared her for this specific case. Like, it could prepare her, but, like, you haven't had this specific case, period.
Right. Can I ask a question that might be, like, a little bit, but I was wondering, what is the update on the prosecution filing to suppress, like, all of the defense's evidence or third party guilt? What happened with that? Do we know?
I think that's still in the waiting room.
Nothing happened with it. They got everybody there on Tuesday to hear the motion in limine, and they didn't do it. She didn't do it. She didn't do it, and now they've kicked it down the road. So that's going to be included in, you know. I mean, at least she set some time. We've got May 21st to May 23rd for them to do hearings on all the things. They could have, like, started in on the motion to eliminate, but they're going to do it in that time frame now.
I actually support that because it was such a like an attempt to, like, cut their legs out from under them.
I mean, it's a comprehensive thing to hear. The motion to eliminate could take, more than a day. So try to squeeze it in on Tuesday. I mean, they were ready to do that. It seems like both sides were ready to do that.
Oh, okay. That still makes me nervous. It's gonna make me. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? That really that made my blood boil. That just that the prosecution even had the audacity.
Is this the real Michael Osberg in chat? Because he's saying
I think so.
Is he being timed out by a mod? Why would Michael be timed out by a mod?
I think it was by accident.
Okay.
Precaution or no, Lisa.
Michael, join.
He's back. He's back on the chat, but I
Okay,
can't.
yeah, I see him that he's on the chat. He said he was timed out. You know, it happens. I've seen it happen a lot of times. You get an accidental timeout.
I don't get accidentally timed out. I get booted. Literally, no. They don't fuck around with me.
Hey, same
Blocked for
Noe,
life.
same Noe. I get booted
No, he
as
gets
well.
straight booted with the heel.
Honestly, same if I'm in Gray Hughes chat, he like takes me out like the first time. I'm
nice.
so nice too sometimes. Well, sometimes.
Hey guys, I'm gonna say good night. Meow, good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Phoenix and Prof. You guys are doing great. I'm enjoying listening to you guys, and I'm gonna continue. Good night to the chat as well. All right.
Yeah, peace, Noe.
Look,
Right.
Lisa says, I'm sorry. Lisa did it. It was an accident. Okay. Yeah, well, thank you, Noe, for hanging out. Yeah, I think like, we're kicking the can down the road, and it's not always a bad thing.
My gosh, you're doing a marathon live stream too. I just popped on. Wow, you guys have been going at it.
Yeah,
I mean, this is something that Prof, you mentioned this earlier, and just like, I mean, I'd like back it up a lot. Like the more time isn't always a bad thing. Like people are going to be disappointed that this isn't resolved sooner rather than later, but more time means more time for whichever. I mean, I don't really know what like pro prosecution people are doing. Like they think they're going to impact the jury pool, and it's just not like a real thing. But like people that like have other interests, more time means more time that you didn't have before. And whether that's like fundraising for experts, or if that's doing like independent investigation of like finding out what happened, like personally, that's where I really would hang. Like that's the corner that I would be in. Is like we if we can find out more evidence that, whichever side you're on, evidence that either incriminates Rick Allen, evidence that is exculpatory for Rick Allen.
Yeah, like, more time is good.
We know $375,000 now goes to prosecution.
We know that law enforcement isn't doing the appropriate investigation, and if that's going to be incumbent on the public to do that type of investigation, here's your fucking chance. Like you've got a lot more time than you had before. Like dig up something.
I worry that the public is just a threat to law enforcement at this point, because it's just like throwing a wrench in things, because it's never going to fit their little perfect narrative. Because I think the more you look at it, the less it makes sense. In my opinion, the more I look at it, the less it makes sense. And I think that the pro prosecution people I think some of them think they're going to come into some money with the reward fund. I'm not sure about that.
Smoking crack. Yeah, this is what they're doing, is delusions of grandeur. No way. No way. It's good because, I mean, first of all, I thought about it earlier today, and I thought, look, obviously it's more time is good in fact of more time to have truth come out, no matter what that is. But I also thought, that Baldwin and Rozzi did not make an executive decision without consulting Richard Allen. So that they probably got with Rick Allen and discussed with him some strategy and saying, look, we can go fast, or we can take time with options A, B, and C, perhaps working out. And so what do you think? And I'm sure that he was able to offer his input. And then I'm feeling like as long as he has the opportunity to give his input in this strategy, and hopefully he thought it was a good idea for him as well, and maybe even his wife. So, if they're truly a representative defense, this would be in his
Right.
part
I
of
think
his
that they are
will
being
as
a little
well.
bit selfless here because I don't think that they're getting they don't have that consistency with the judge paying them regularly. I think that their interest would not be on continuing to prolong this case, especially financially. They've just thrown so many wrenches into it, or at least Judge Skull has kind of thrown so many wrenches into just not paying Rozzy and just refusing financial resources to the defense team. So I think that this is probably in the best interests of their client, whether it's in the most ideal interests of for them. I think they're very passionate about this case, and that's kind of one of the most striking things I think I still take away from it.
Yeah, I would totally agree, Meow, because I've spoken to some individuals, and I just have the feeling that the concept that these attorneys are at this point in it for any sort of financial gain beyond the norm is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I have the feeling, sort of from secondhand communication or whatever, that they are absolutely passionate about justice for Abby and Libby, and be that come through the avenue of defending Richard Allen, so be it. It's just that I believe that they're in it for the long haul, and if collectively they all thought that this is the best way for that, I'm down with it. I just think that the talking point about the money, I only hear that coming from one person on this other side, and he's absolutely despicable, disrespectful, and in fantasy world, 99% of the time. So that kind of mudslinging towards them, it's just laughable to me. Like I know that they're in it for the right reasons at this point.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm so happy about it, because I think that if the truth about this crime has to come out through a defense investigation, then that's fine with me.
Mhm. Exactly. And like it's not always the fact that you get a lot of corruption is exposed, obviously, through normal trial procedures and things like that. That's just kind of that. I understand that Michael Osbrook is kind of he's one of those people that doesn't believe that there should be um, cameras in the courtroom, and I've heard his arguments on that, and I understand that. I just think that one of the things that the public needs is a little bit more transparency on how their law enforcement and elected officials are conducting themselves in order to make a salient and wise judgment about whether these are your elected officials, that you need to understand the policies that have been put forth. You have to understand that we also do have absolute or not we, but Indiana has absolute prosecutorial immunity, so prosecutors are immune from any litigation or liability, even if they're knowingly aware that the person they're prosecuting or the defendant is innocent. And I was completely floored to know that. And so,
I didn't
um,
know that to that extent. I mean, that borders on
yeah,
open door to criminality.
right. And a lot of a lot of attorneys from Indiana will tell you that that's one of the greatest flaws with the justice system in Indiana. It does allow for a lot of corruption to continue, and I can only I can't imagine how how do you come to a prosecutor's office and say, we lost all of this? I mean, what was the reaction? What was the response? Was there any
Oh,
any
I
effort
bet
to
there was a response. I don't think Nick knew about all that shit.
but was there
I
any
think
attempt to
I think
remedy
they
that?
dropped some bombs on him in the course of this.
Yes, I agree that he kind of walked into it. Now, that's why I get into it with Rob Ives on Twitter. I hate that man because I know that man left and has been he's been a bystander to a lot of crazy things that have happened in that county. So I don't think he's as innocent as he pretends to be. But that's just my opinion, and that's just my thoughts. So you can't sue me for it. But when it comes to when they first found out about this, what were the attempts with, okay, we now need to resecure or work on how we save our evidence? Like, what specific things were enacted to respond to that? Does that make sense?
I mean, I think the prosecutor's stuck. I mean, you've got this case and you got to deal with it.
Right. But like moving forward from that, yeah, I guess.
I mean, I think I'm sure he's been shocked by some things that he's discovered on his side of things. Right. I'm sure of it. Shocked. Right. I don't know how you couldn't be shocked when you're like, oh, we're missing all these interviews. We're missing all these recordings. Like, yeah. What am I supposed to tell? What am I supposed to tell everybody? Right. And then they just come up with the best that they can do, but like, okay, that's not good.
But one of the things because I know proving malfeasance with this was a main thing, and that's kind of one of the things that's kind of where I was trying to go with that, is that did they make any productive effort to improve that moving forward, or limit loss of evidence, limit loss of interviews, improve the
I think it's pretty clear that they didn't.
So that's already kind of demonstrates some lack of accountability, authority, you know what I mean? For them to not even investigate why that happened.
Right. No, I mean,
internal.
Yeah, I mean, you got Steve Mullins up there, and like, I mean, obviously, you do an investigation of how the fuck this happened, but
I think Steve Mullins and Rob Ives are like cut from the same cloth. That is like they have been working together for decades.
I mean,
and Mullins made absolutely no logical sense on the stand. I mean, I was astounded by the lack of logic and accountability.
Right. I mean, you would have to investigate this. Like, hey, it's literally your job. Like, okay, the recordings got deleted. How did that happen? For you to have an answer of just shrug your shoulders, no idea. No, that's not good enough. Not even close. Not even close.
Right. Mullins is always there. When anything bad goes on in the county, he's always there. He was one of the main investigators on the Willie Smith capital murder. And Percosa just said Nick McClellan stated the ISP was in possession of Flora evidence. Correct. Yeah. So the Carroll County was taken off of in January of 2017. This was probably the only self-aware thing that Rob Ives has done. He did contact the ISP and told them that they needed to take over the Flora case, and the ISP emphatically agreed. But there's been a lot of internal strife, I would say, between the agencies involved, such as between IDHS, the county prior to being taken out, and then ISP, FBI, and ATF. So FBI, ATF have been kind of cut out, but there are people still within the county that wanted the FBI, ATF back on that case, because part of a fire investigation is that helps lead you to the perpetrator. But the ISP doesn't understand fire investigations, doesn't understand the nuance of that. And so there is a lot of internal strife between them. They didn't, there was a lot of animosity about county investigators following up on tips, and the ISP didn't want them to. So it just, I mean, it seems so juvenile when I was like like seeing what was going on just behind the scenes of like these investigators kind of just talking shit about each other. It just seemed very juvenile to me. But there was clearly a lot in 2022 that came out with the deposition by Jeffrey Tipton, who was an independent fire investigator, who contacted IDHS in early February 2017 to contact them about this investigation being completely mishandled by Dennis Randall, the IDHS fire marshal at the time, and prior, like two-time Carroll County sheriff, who had been on that case. And I've heard a lot, just kind of unanimously across the board, that he had done something to undermine the investigation. Although what exactly that was, I still can't concretely tell you. It seems, you know, it's very unclear, but there seems to have been a lot of issues with evidence as well in the Flora case, because they also discarded the entire storage locker full of evidence. So there are huge systemic issues with like two of the most substantial multi-fatality incidents within this county, possibly within the state, that have just been completely lost and with no explanation.
Meow, would you please, for those not familiar with the incident, elaborate on the destruction of evidence in the storage locker with the Flora evidence?
Yeah, so
Hold on. Sorry. I'm gonna get off here, but I'm gonna keep listening. But I gotta dip.
Oh.
All right, we love
Have
you.
a good night, guys.
Love you, Phoenix.
Thanks, Prof. Best way to get a hold of me is probably just DM me on Twitter. And then
I'll do it.
If you want to talk a different way, we can figure that out.
All right, I'll do it.
All right, peace, guys.
Later.
Yeah. So the Flora, I could actually pull up the specific point where he references it. It's kind of it's under the website, the flora4.org website. You go down to Flora under whistleblowers, you can find the entire whistleblower letter and the deposition, which is the Tipton deposition. If I could drop it, I'll drop it. And they talk about the circumstances of losing the evidence. And it seemed that it was lost in 2020. Yeah, so here, I'll read it. So as you know, the arson in Flora am I just alone in this? Okay. All right. I guess I'll hold this down. So the arson in Flora killed 4 baby girls in Flora, Indiana, November 21st, 2016. If you guys haven't seen, there's a 3-part series on Wish TV that just aired May 6th to May 8th about the community recovering and, you know, the loss of evidence and how the case was handled. It didn't really go into all the details. I mean, there's a lot more nitty-gritty details that they kind of just shy away from. And I've noticed that with most broadcast media, they do not try and like talk about, you know, they don't want to like really out the details here, but we got like a little bit more insight. I feel like Tipton's deposition kind of gave the best. So on page this is the page 15 of the deposition. I guess I can just try and drop this in the chat. Yeah, hi Phoenix. Yeah, I'm gonna drop this in the private chat. I don't know if you can. Oh, can I share this in the comments? Do you guys take links? I'm not sure if it's good. It didn't work. But that was in January 2022. And it said on page 15? So when I do collect evidence, it's usually tagged and preserved and stored. Question, where did you typically store evidence in 2016? It would have been stored in a storage locker in Bridgman, hang on a second, technically in Stevensville, Michigan. gave the address. Do you still own that storage locker? No. When did you last own that particular storage facility? I never owned a statewide consulting, and it was vacated in December 2020. What led you to led to the evidence storage locker being vacated? Because I switched locations. So the locker was around for about a year. And then December 2020, Chad Coney, another worker, came over with a trailer and we vacated the storage locker at the time. And then they go into a little bit more on the fire investigation. They go into more detail about the circumstances of that. I think they really put it on Tipton about, that. But another interesting thing about the evidence that was in that storage locker is that it actually appeared back in the home prior to it being demolished. So the home was demolished in October 2023, but in April 2023, they found one of the apparently burnt smoke detector in the home. So it was clear that someone had apparently put it back, but they had already logged and processed it as being in that storage locker. So that was bizarre. So right now I'm on page 18 if you want, and on line 15 or 15, it says, question, who is ATF? That's alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Were they involved in this case? Answer, yes, they were. Question, so was it a federal investigation, correct? Well, they didn't make it a federal investigation because the scene got messed up too bad by the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. But you had conferred with the ATF about this case? They were at the scene several times. So you didn't think that the ATF being at the scene consisted of a federal investigation at any level? Answer, they never made it a, quote, federal investigation. That would mean that they would be taking over the investigation and the state of Indiana would be taking a backseat role. That never happened. What about the state of Indiana? Were you aware of the state police? Yep, I know. And were they investigating it? Yes, horribly. They were what? They were investigating it horribly. Okay. That's why I sent out an email to the director of Homeland Security insisting that he do something to step in because the person that was in charge at the time, Denny Randall, was absolutely horrible and was doing a horrible job. That's why Denny Randall is no longer employed with the state of Indiana. And it was because of me trying to do the right thing, reaching out to, even at the chance of me never getting another assignment from, I do a lot of work in Indiana, and that could have been, potentially have been really, really bad for me. But I was trying to stand up for Galen Rose and her 4 daughters. And so that's why the whole thing got initiated. I wish ATF would have taken over. They would have done a much better job. And so I think that gives a little bit of insight as to just there's a lot of redundancy between how people have close to the investigation have felt with the conduct and evidence. Evidence seems to have suspiciously gone missing. And why? I mean, it's 4 baby girls. You'd think that that would be the most preserved and most, it still frustrates me to this day. But and then there's a lot more on this where they go into like the details about it. But right when this was taken, that when this actual deposition was done, it was less than 1 month before Stephanie Thompson would die. And Stephanie Thompson had conducted the majority of the polygraphs that were in the Flora case. She also conducted a number of the polygraphs for the Odin report. So
right, which is extremely concerning and not talked about enough. It's just the amount of arsons in this county is off the charts. Do you have statistics, or what do you know about like the
so you can
prevalence of these arsons?
You can find it on the IDHS website. I also have it, not to plug my thing, but also on under resources. If you just go down to Indiana residential fire maps, it'll pull up a map listing the tracked fires, because they are tracking fires. They have been tracking fires, fire fatalities in the state since 2016. To my knowledge, because there's just such a huge volume of fires in in Indiana, but also it would be, I think, FEMA region. I think it's 5, has just way more fires than anywhere else relative to population. And among now, one of the things that I think is important about also the data that we have here. I'm sharing it with you in the private chat again. But one of the things about the data here, if you look at the number of fatal fires by cause type, the majority of them are undetermined. And if you look at the ATF bombing, arson, and fire, they release these statistics every year about these and what are the causes and motivations on a national scale. And the ATF has consistently stated that among undetermined or unknown origin fires, about 60% of them are believed to be arson. So, and the reason for that, or the reason why they are they're often quote undetermined, is because of the sheer destruction of the fire, that they're unable to determine actually where the fire started, because arsons tend to burn abnormally compared to a natural fire. They tend to burn much hotter, and tend to be much more destructive. So you might not be able to identify where that origin is. In the case of Flora, there were actually some circumstances that did prevent a lot of the destruction of the evidence, because it was also I think it was because of the environmental factors of it being an extremely humid day, and there was no wind to allow for the fire to kind of, and it was very oxygen limited, but that involves some fire science. Yeah, Ferency is a big deal with Flora too, because obviously that was one of the first things that I became aware of way before the whole Delphi case, or even knowing about Ferenczy's involvement on the Odin report, is that Ryan Lindgren, or there was a JTTF that was investigating a lot of these individuals, and Ryan Lindgren was the FBI agent that was at least who had been speaking with individuals to my knowledge, up to 2021. And Ryan Lindgren was the other FBI agent that shot back at Shane Meehan in that shootout in Terre Haute.
Oh, what's his name again? I'm sorry.
Ryan Lindgren.
Okay.
Lindgren. I think, and I've sent that business card that he gave to the family, and I called the number, and it's just it just is a dial tone. It's been completely disconnected, so it's ominous. I guess. Wasn't Meehan associated with Creasy? I don't know of that.
I have that from somewhere else, but
Okay.
I can't recall at the moment, but it's somewhere. Yeah. I've kind of got some feeling that's credible. From
I know
someone.
that Creasy, he was in according to his Facebook page, it seemed very evident that he was an Odinist, and he did dabble in these things. He wanted to get an entire Odin tattoo on his back, and it is disturbing, because this is an individual that had dated Galen just before the fire, would have known, her her schedule. And
Know his biker club affiliation by any chance?
Colton Creasy?
Yes.
Colton Creasy, to my knowledge, did not have, I think he had a suspended license or something. He wasn't able to drive. So I don't know about it. But I would not be surprised for yeah.
In this document here, I might have just totally spaced on it, but remember I was asking you about the storage locker? Is that discussed in this
Yeah.
document?
Yeah, that was discussed in the, like, when they cleared it out in 2020. There's a few points that they discuss. The first time is on,
or can we go back to that again?
yeah. Let me pull it back up. Gotta just,
because I read it. I remember when you were discussing it with me and you sent, and it was highlighted, I believe, and I read it. And I was floored.
It's only sparingly. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of want to go back over.
Sparingly discussed in the context. I wish they almost got into it more about it, because it didn't make a lot of sense about why. Okay, so on page 15, they really hammer into him about have you been trained in evidence documentation, storage? And he explains how he collects evidence. And he says, so when I do collect evidence, it's usually tagged and then preserved and stored. And where did you typically store evidence in 2016? It would have been a storage locker in Bridgman. So at first, I guess the independent investigator or whatever was storing it in Stevensville, Michigan. Do you still own that storage locker? No. When did you last own that particular storage facility? I never owned it. Statewide Consulting and Investigating owned it, and it was vacated December of 2020. What led to the evidence storage locker being vacated? Because I switched locations. I started working for firefighters in 2019, so the locker was around for about a year, and then in December 2020, so he had left in 2019, and then in December 2020, apparently Chad Coney, another worker, came over there with a trailer and vacated the storage locker at the time. And how many items of evidence did you leave in that locker when you left employment of Statewide Consulting? There were several. I mean, if I had to guess, I would say probably over 20, maybe more. And were those pending litigation matters? No. How many were pending litigation? 2. And those 2 were, it was a file and then another of auto owners in Kalamazoo. And then they bring it up again, another, let me bring it down, sorry. And then on page 138, and so you collected this evidence and this evidence storage log, but it doesn't show that the evidence is being stored at. Is this right? No, that's correct. And the contact person was Robbie Howell. And so this person that would have been given permission to either maintain or destroy the evidence, destroy the evidence, that's correct. Fair. And this smoke detector is important evidence. Yes. And so we put everything together in one pile, documented it, and we searched for a battery in all portions of the stairway, both, because there was 2 risers for the stair treads and there's a landing in the midsection. Okay, so what he's describing here is basically it appeared, and what they had documented from it, although they did not have the actual smoke detector, they had the images from their initial documentation that showed that it seemed that the smoke alarms had been tampered with and someone had removed the batteries from it. And so there were no batteries inside. And that was kind of one of the discussions or one of the fights between the landlords in the civil suit, because particularly pertaining to the civil case, this piece of evidence was relevant to the civil case as well as the auto owners insurance coverage because they had just retained the auto owner's insurance on that home within a year of the fire for, I believe, 1.5 to 2 million. So it was for the home, but then on top of that, additional liability coverage. So they were very well covered prior to that fire, which was suspicious also. And so then on page, sorry if I'm jumping around a little bit because again, it's brought up in multiple places. Okay, 162. Did anyone ever show you that to see whether or not the smoke detector was discovered in 2021 was the same one you had collected in evidence back in 2016 or 2017? No. So I get this straight, make sure I get this accurate. Blah, 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 blah. This is talking about the letter from Mr. Coney, and we went through that before, but I was trying to determine, was the evidence that was collected in April, was that actually thrown away in December 2020, or was it at a later date, or do you know? I don't understand that question. Well, we talked about this earlier. Remember, I showed you the letter from Mr. Coney saying he said that they went through the locker and they'd taken things out of the locker and that they didn't know what happened to this smoke, this evidence that you collected from the fire, right? That is correct. So my question is, do you know the date range the evidence from the Flora fire was actually discarded? Was it discarded that day back in December of 2020, or was it at a later date, December? It was discarded that same day from what I understood. Did Mr. Coney ever get permission to destroy the evidence? No, no one gave permission to destroy the evidence. It was accidentally disposed of.
Accidentally.
Yeah.
On what date? Let's go back a page. What date was it?
He only says December 2020. I don't know if he specifies. But again, this is a lot of
Accidentally. It's just like, how many accidents with this evidence, these two murders?
Right. And exactly. There's just it's been almost such a, I think it says December 2nd of 2020. December 2nd of 2020.
Well, let's do that again. Let me go back. I'll read it this time to save you. Let me go back to page 162 and line.
If you do control find and you look up like December, those are all the times that they're talking about it. It's just not all consolidated.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So December, and then he says, nobody gave you permission to destroy the evidence. It was accidentally. So did Mr. Comey, I can't read it that well.
I don't know who Mr. Comey is or Coney is.
Get your permission to destroy the evidence. No, nobody gave permission to destroy the evidence. It was accidentally disposed of. See, I had not heard of this until you mentioned it to me. And for me, this is a major thing. Right. Because we have an ongoing this case is not closed.
Yeah. And it seemed, well, it doesn't seem that they're really investigating, or I mean, I don't think that they're investing much time into investigating it, at least the state isn't, because I don't think that they feel that they're going to get a return on their investment or something. But I had always heard that, or at least I had heard from investigators that were peripherally involved in the case that, well, it can't result in a prosecution. So I think that they didn't see there to be much utility in putting much manpower into it. But when I'm looking at what they've done with the Delphi case, it does just seem like there's a disparity in
Well,
effort.
right,
And,
but then they have $60,000 to suppress the 911 calls being released.
oh, more than that. When I spoke with Luke Britt, the public access counselor, I mean, he was like that. It was 6 figures, like because they had to appeal it
To
on top of that.
suppress the 911. So why
Yeah.
can't we hear the 911 calls if there's nothing to them?
That's a very good question. A lot of people have suggested that they think that they might have been deleted or partially deleted.
Oh, possibly another.
Yeah.
How much money again? Precedent says 6
You're
figures.
you're gonna have to specifically talk to Luke Britt, who knows a little bit more, and maybe Debbie Lowe. But that prior to their initial, so they were fighting in court against Scripps Media, which was a number of broadcast media companies that were filing for against Carroll County for suppressing the E911 calls. And it was setting a very dangerous precedent to be able to suppress E911 calls from the public, since that's generally
Yes,
as
it's like it.
accessible as body cam things. And they appealed the original decision, which was, no, you must hand this over. They appealed it, and or they did not they denied the opinion of the public access counselor, just refused to hand it over. And then they were sued, and then they appealed it. And you can see it during a lot of there's several county council meetings where they're discussing it, and their own lawyers saying, like, this is just an egregious waste. You could just hand it over. But one of the things that
Egregious.
yeah. And Debbie Lowe was like, pushing back, like, why are we don't have this money. Why are you spending taxpayer dollars? This is not in their interests. And you're using it to suppress it. And interestingly, McClelland came out. And so I actually had no opinion on McClelland until I saw his stance on the E911 calls. And he's saying, I'm actually pretty passionate about it. I don't think this should be released to the public, because if we open that door with Flora, then we open that door with Delphi. Then that kind of like sent a little, I wonder what they're hiding with Delphi. To this day, I don't know exactly if there was an or maybe something that could have been discoverable with Flora or Delphi that they were afraid of. But it seemed like they were trying to do damage control from, having more released that would basically reflect poorly on them. And that was going to result in a lot of scrutiny on the county. And that was pretty, I really love that Debbie Lowe's channel where she would
That's why she had to go. That's why they don't like her. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. And I love her. I love her. She's a hero.
Transparency, accountability are big with me. And come on, why would they hate Debbie Lowe and the Comet?
That makes no sense. Oh, by the way, that publication's been around for so long, and Debbie Lowe has been fighting the county, and apparently so has the public access counselor in the state of Indiana. So the public access counselor is appointed by the governor, and they're all about ensuring transparency within reason. And I guess the county has repeatedly and routinely absconded from public access laws, to the point that it's becoming a serious issue. At least, like, you could tell there was a lot of animosity that was shared. But one of the problems is there was no way to reappeal that or bring that case up without, again, mounting another lawsuit against the county. I don't have the resources to do that. And one way that you can also try and get some movement on that is by contacting your local congressman or your local senators in the state. The only issue that I was advised of on that front is that with Flora, it's always going, no matter what, it's going to look bad on law enforcement. With the dash cam being released, it obviously did not reflect very well on their fire response, on their law enforcement response. It made law enforcement look very, cruel in how they had treated Galen. Galen had said from the beginning that that officer had to go and retrieve the fire department. And, they had been saying forever that she was lying about that. And it just right in front of our eyes, we can see that that's exactly what happened. He went and he retrieved the fire department to the home. And that was just an abjectly horrible fire department response. Galen did not push a firefighter in. Galen was not sitting there doing nothing. Galen was screaming for her baby girls. And
I
so,
read or I saw some footage and some coverage. She suffered injuries. She suffered bad injuries.
yes, yes,
Inhalation.
inhalation burns. And also another thing that I thought was interesting was corneal burns.
Right.
Corneal burns that also is part of a pyrolysis gas reagent that is actually corrosive. So that's going to be corrosive to your lung tissue, but it's also going to be corrosive, particularly if it's alkaline in nature. And it also kind of gives an indication of whatever whatever was used as the accelerant.
What was burning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Burning.
It gives
How
indication.
hot was it?
Yeah.
For her I mean, I just imagine. I have
very hot. Yes.
I could not imagine having 4 children screaming and it being so hot and thick that I can't fight through that wall of smoke. And that just tells me how hot and raging that fire had to be, and the fumes, what was burning to make it that bad.
Well, that's how that's usually that's a big indication that this is an arson fire. Prokoson's talking also about why did it take the fire department so long to respond to the Thompson residents. I'm not sure if it actually took them very long because we do have the fire report on that. The thing is that it was called in by someone who was driving in the area late at night. Again, it was like a very late 2, 3 a.m. house fire. And they saw that there was clearly a fire on the back porch area. Interestingly, it was in the back porch area. It didn't seem that smoke alarms were going off in that either. And they did respond to the home. And again, very, very hot fire, a very, very devastating fire. If you've ever seen what the remains of the Monticello fire, it looked like a bomb had gone off. And that's the main reason why the Monticello fire was never able to be determined, despite the ATF investigating it for over a year, I think. They were never able to pin down an actual origin, but the ATF's involvement so early on does indicate the suspicion of foul play. And yeah, they obviously, for those who don't know, they did find the 2 victims on the first floor of the residence. One was in a bathtub, and one was found in a crawl space. And those were Stephanie different rooms, but one was in a hallway bathroom in a bathtub, which I thought was odd.
Also very unlikely, because think of if you were a mother, would not you go to your daughter?
Yeah. Right.
Perish with her?
And it doesn't seem that, I mean, everyone has cell phones. It doesn't seem that any attempts to call were made. Was there any attempts to try and find a window? I don't know. I have no idea what exactly happened there. And I think that that was such a jarring thing. And I think, of course, understanding a little bit more about the family is important, because Maya Thompson, she was a sergeant with the state police. She was a polygrapher, one of very few polygraphers that was involved in both Delphi and Flora, and had two young girls. Percocet, yes, they did release the autopsy for Stephanie and Maya. I don't know if like they released. I know that the media had reported that they did die of smoke inhalation, so they were not dead before the fire. They did die in the fire, and they were not recognizable.
Almost as
When
if they were drugged or trapped, the chat is saying.
They're usually going to do, they're going to do like a full drug panel on their bodies, and I'm assuming that would be one of the first things that they did. I know they did that with the Flora girls as well, and unfortunately, I mean, ominously, um, a lot of gangs definitely do. It's a very impersonal way to commit a hit or take care of someone, is to just set fire to somewhere, or and I mean, even I think even Brad Holder had once posted on his Facebook a really gross thing, and let me see if I can find it on my phone. um, like, you might have friends that I can't find it right now,
I
but
remember what you're talking about. Yeah, it's I forget
you know, it's like a meme.
that. It's just totally inappropriate at a minimum.
Yeah, it was a hmm, it was like a meme where it's like your friends might have your back, but my friends will tie tie
Hide the
tie someone to a
bodies.
chair and set your house on fire. And I mean, um, I think that underscores
Help
kind
you
of
bury the body. Right, Rex. Right.
yeah. And there was another one about, tying you to a chair and setting your house on fire.
Um,
So
and
he was
I have a friend named Joe who's a state trooper, retired, and
mhm,
he was a personal friend for many years of Stephanie Thompson.
right,
And he said to us, like, Prof, absolutely no fucking way in the world. That was a strong woman, a smart woman. She was an experienced
yes,
trooper and a badass. And he said, absolutely no fucking way. She would just lay there and let herself die, or her daughter, or not struggle, or not suffer extreme burns to get out of that building. He said,
right,
there's just absolutely no way. And
yeah.
I mean,
It is one of the more disturbing things, I think. Another thing that I didn't really Brad Holder wasn't on my radar per se. I knew about like generally the group being in the area, but Brad Holder himself was not on my radar until the Franks memo. And then, but I had been aware of several of the very suspicious house fires. So seeing that he's so personally connected to Joseph Huddleston. Um, I don't know if you know about the Huddleston house fire that happened in November 28th, 2018. And that was in Logansport, and four children died in that. So did two adults. And Joseph Huddleston was a direct family member of Holder. And um, Daniel Height, I believe his name was. He was the father of of three of the four kids that died in the fire, and he was found the same day, a few hours later, dead in his home in Flora. And
2 hours later, right.
right, and so that seemed odd. um,
Well, and then
and
let us not forget to reiterate that on the day prior to the Flora fire, just mere houses away, there was
Right.
a blot by Westfall, Holder, and Associates.
Right. That was at Westfall's residence at 218 South Division Street, which is just, 2 doors down, right behind the Flora house. And so that's something that like sends a chill up your spine when you know that they're having a blot, which is again their ritual sacrifice just hours before this devastating house fire. So I've always found that to be extremely concerning. And
Another
what was more,
coincidence, as we run into the hundreds of coincidences in this case, or in these
yes,
cases.
yeah, there's a lot of coincidences that it's almost easier. I understand why a lot of people almost like are like, that's so crazy, that's ridiculous, because it's easier to ignore that because it's so concerning. And that would suggest that there's 6 kids that at least, and then you add Stephanie and Maya, then you've got another kid, another adult. And then you've got potentially Greg Ferenczi. You add that, and then you add the Huddleston fire. That's another
Going
4
into, yeah,
children and
the
2
body
adults.
the body count around this, what I call it a cartel. You call it what you want. I call it the cartel.
It is essentially it's
Extreme
it
body
is.
count that's mounting in the central Indiana.
Right. And I think that I'm just reading directly from I think this was posted on the Kokomo Tribune and the Associated Press. Father of 3 Logansport fire victims found dead hours later. The father of 3 of the 6 victims of the Northern Indiana house fire was found a few hours later after the blaze miles away in what Police Chief Paul Redman on Thursday called a coincidence. Okay, Paul. Sure. Um, and it and Greason said Wednesday that the investigation into the fire could take weeks because of the level of the destruction. The roof is collapsed, the second floor is collapsed, so we had to dig through the debris. As we dig through the debris, if there's one area of the home that was more charred than the other, showing flames spread a certain way, we'll record that, but it will be very hard with the amount of damage and demolition to the home. And I know that according to the Daily Mail, they had been, at least according to the Daily Mail, they had said, find it specifically, foul play is suspected, so they are treating it as a criminal investigation. Investigators say they're treating the fire as a criminal matter as foul play is suspected. And the 3 children were Marshall Height, 3 months, Riley Height, 1, Swayze Height, 3 years old, all died. Huddleston's 10-year-old daughter, Katie, died in the fire, and as well as Huddleston and Brandy Vale, 25. So that's just like the death toll just seems like something that is just nothing that should be. It just seems like they definitely would want a federal investigator on this. Like, wouldn't you want that for the safety of your community, right? You would want a little bit more oversight.
I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, if not prior, I mean, certainly by now.
Okay, the Flora photo of the guy with the bulge in his. So the guy that walks in front of
The guy is what he's saying.
Yeah, the guy that walks in front of the police dash cam, which is Yoder's dash cam. It is interesting. There's one guy who is not wearing any turnout gear, but he interacts with one individual who's wearing his turnout gear, walking towards the back, and they seem to be walking together, and then they interact again. And the firefighter who is wearing his turnout gear, it says Erskine on the back. Now, I've heard from a couple sources, though, that Adam Randall showed up wearing Erskine's turnout gear. Now, I don't have 100% verification on this, but it is interesting because when you look at the firefighters that were at the scene or listed as the first responders, Erskine is not one of them. So that would be consistent with
Right,
someone
right.
else wearing his turnout gear. And therefore, I suspected that that was potentially Erskine, or it's someone else, you know. But when this man or this firefighter is returning from the back of the home, we now know that the back of the home is where the fire started. He runs up to him, points to something, and tells him to put it away. So that was very odd and suspicious. And what Fox 59, CBS 4 Indy had to do to get that dash cam was an incredible feat. I mean, the ISP did not want that out there. And why?
So
They always said that, oh, well, we would treat it just the same as we did Delphi. We don't have footage. We don't have. Well, you do. You did have footage. We don't have audio. Well, you do. You have an E911 call that you're saying is evidence. Why is it evidence? Give us a
why
little
is
bit
it
more
evidence? That's what I've been saying.
And so
What is
I
on it that could potentially be of evidentiary value, and why is it worth spending $100,000 plus on?
Yeah, exactly. And where are they getting this money? They're spending money that they're at a county council meeting talking about how they can't pay. They don't pay their own dispatchers like nearly enough. No one wants to come to the county to do any work. They
Leland
have
begging
trouble
for
finding people who don't have criminal
$5,000
records.
here and there, but we
Hmm?
got $100,000+ to spend on the
Yeah.
suppression of a 911.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And Doug Carter does say it wasn't our best day. It wasn't our best day. Because I understand he is aware that there was a deliberate, there was misconduct that had happened. I don't think that he or anyone in law enforcement, no one has ever defended Dennis Randall to me. So I can say that, like, no one will ever defend Dennis Randall. Um, yeah, I do recognize that they do put a lot of the blame on him here. But I think it takes a lot more than that. I know that Greg Edwards was the first ISP trooper assigned to the case. He was taken off by 2018 because he had a conflict of interest, having had worked directly with Dennis Randall in investigating Dennis Randall and his wife with stealing, I think, $250,000 to $500,000 from the former Carroll County prosecutor, and actually Abigail Diener, who's married to Benjamin Diener. She was the one who prosecuted the former sheriff on that, which was just kind of, it shows how incestuous this little
Yeah, and
town
she
is.
was a total asshole in the courtroom
Well, that's Stacy Diener, right?
for Delphi. No, that was Abigail, I believe, wasn't it? Or am I mistaken?
It's the same family, but
Yeah.
Abigail Dean, was it? I mean, Abigail Diener, she is an attorney though.
Is it not the
But
same precedent? Okay, so we're talking about two different. Well,
I think it's the
get the names
stepmother
mixed up,
of
possibly.
Benjamin or something. It's the stepmother of Benjamin Diener, Stacy. And
Let's start over precedent. Who was the Diener in the hearings recently for Delphi? Abigail. Was it Abigail being a total ass, or was it Stacy?
you
Let's
mean
get
Stacy Diener is married to Benjamin's father. Yes. Abigail Diener is married to Benjamin. Abigail Diener is also ran the CASA program with Jason Thompson and Stephanie Thompson, which is the Carroll County, White County CASA program. The CASA program is the Court Appointed Special Advocates program, which works on basically when mommy and daddy are going to prison, and
trafficking children.
basically putting the kids into a safe place, or a safe housing situation, determining if the children can go back with their parents. Now, like, I understand, yeah, the CASA program, interesting, very interesting. There's a lot of before, I think Fouts was in was on that, and I mean, right when he kind of got in trouble with all of his situations. So there are a lot of people that also hate CASA, especially if you are losing your children for other crimes. They have a lot of animosity for those people because they definitely project um, a lot of their rage towards those court appointed special advocates that play a role in, taking their children, out of their custody.
Look at Radar's comment here, because I didn't know that he said this. Did he really say this, Radar?
Whoever started the fire didn't mean to hurt anyone. How could he? I mean, okay. So when I spoke with him about this, he said, he kind of said something similar to that. He said that he believed that Galen must have interacted at some point, whether she knows or not, with whoever is responsible for it. And he also, I mean, at first he tried to say that he felt that they didn't mean to hurt anyone. And I said, well, why would you cut the power? Why would you cut the power first? And so I pushed back on that. And he kind of, he didn't really perseverate on it. And he said, well, that Indiana has a lot of hate. So that kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me. Well, if you know that Indiana has a lot of hate, why would you think that they didn't mean to hurt anyone with that? Did you think it was just a property
Right, that's a
crime?
contradiction in and of
Why-
itself, Doug.
Why would you do it at 3 a.m.? You could have done it when they were not home, but you did it on a school night when the kids would have been home. They weren't home all weekend. I immediately, I was like, shut the fuck up. But because I think that it is easier for people to rationalize not having justice on this case when you think it was maybe a mistake. It was some kid who thought it was an abandoned house. I mean,
No,
I don't.
No. This is, in my opinion, it says only one of two. There's two options, and not any others.
Right.
I think my two options in my brain, but the fact that he would contradict on that is just, I've lost all respect. I've said it a month ago. I've lost all respect.
Yeah. I took that as a bit of an insult to my intelligence. Like,
Yeah.
I cut him off, like straight up cut him off. I was like, so sorry. No. Like you know that the power was cut. You know that the batteries were removed. But it was also seemed very clear that he doesn't actually work on these investigations.
Right, exactly. Well, I know that, yeah.
And his main thing is to just defend the law enforcement any way that he can.
Yep.
And so when I did, and I told him, I was like, well, we've been trying to get some possible way for Galen to relay this, and this has all been important. And so we started doing the live streams on my channel, and it made Galen feel more comfortable to at least be able to speak candidly, but also, I understand, especially after we see how Holman speaks to Richard Allen, why there is a lot of distrust for ISP. I'm sure that that's how they spoke to her. I'm sure. And as someone who's lost all 4 of your girls, you're not going to want to talk to someone who's speaking to you like that. So I very much recognize why she really wanted, I'll speak with an FBI agent. I'm not speaking.
So where's the FBI agent? I mean,
well, they cut him out, I guess.
Yeah, can we not just fucking get this done because we got 4 baby girls? And like I told you, until I went to the cemetery and stood with them, with my little boy, this was an abstract. I was removed from feeling what this is.
Right.
But to stand there and to understand that those are 4 baby girls under the ground there,
Yeah. 4 baby girls
it's
full of
personal.
life. Yeah. Yeah. And like, so what Prakosin's saying, yes, I thought a hate crime, they do have jurisdiction, and I've reported it so many times. I just like flood them. But they have to be invited in, is what they said. And one of the things that Carroll County does not do is they do not, they are non-compliant with the FBI, and they're non-compliant with reporting. Hate crimes. They actually have no hate crime statute within the state of Indiana, which is one of, I think, 3 states where they don't have to report hate crimes.
Right. Well, and they pulled the same shit with Delphi.
Right.
You know, who the fuck kicks out that this is just I cannot fathom.
Right.
Who would not cooperate with the FBI?
They're trying to help.
They are only a resource for you. A great resource.
The last thing they want to do is to create more animosity, especially within the state of, they don't want to be there as much as don't want them there. Because they get, a lot of shit in that state. I mean, it's not a state that is very pro-Fed. They are just not. But for whatever reason, he decided to make that executive decision. And I think that was a mistake, because right after Greg Ferenczi died, well, one of your own, Stephanie Thompson, died in a very suspicious way. And the ATF immediately gets jurisdiction over, I'm not sure, like they were trying, I think there was a little bit of pushback in the press conference on Ferenczi. They're like, who is going to have jurisdiction? And the FBI was like, this is a federal agent on federal property. Immediately, we have jurisdiction. Don't even argue with us. But with Stephanie Thompson, the ATF did take over that one, because any sort of crime or potential murder of an officer is going to be federal jurisdiction, because you can't have your own state investigate that, because I mean, it's a conflict of interest immediately. But any sort of like attack that would be like on a judge or something like that, or any sort of public official becomes federal jurisdiction. But unfortunately, there was not much for them to go on to even start the investigation, which is tragic.
Radar says kicked out from Delphi because they said ritualistic, which was clear, and Bullet was law enforcement's. Wow. Allegedly.
Everyone, that's one of the first things I heard, around Delphi, is that law enforcement and searchers were among those who were investigated, and they've even been pretty open about it, and they've talked about having given polygraphs and things like that. There's a reason for that, I'm sure, and now that we know about the bullet being a common standard issue bullet, it raises a little bit more eyebrows, and because I was so closely following the sheriff's election, because Pinkard, he seemed very willing and eager to investigate Flora. He seemed very concerned about it, so I was very pro Pinkard on that, because Pinkard was challenging Liggett. And one of the things that did come up in, I think, their first debate, which was at the Delphi United Methodist Church, they specifically said, we want a constitutional sheriff. Tobe Lesenby has been a constitutional sheriff. And so they then panned to Lesenby, and Lesenby talked about how he denied the FBI's request for gun ownerships in the county. Now, I understand that people think it's a constitutional right. Yeah. But now that we know about this, bullet being found, why were they so scared about, providing gun ownership in the county? Would there have been potentially another suspect or something. That's just something I thought was curious. And Liggett was pretty clear about how he planned to be a constitutional sheriff, not to cooperate with the FBI. So, and that's what the
Well,
constitution
Preckerson makes a good point here in that, see, we're looking into the crystal ball here, but if you go into and study what gives ground for a RICO, it's pretty much right here. Is that when the local law enforcement and the structure refuses to address crimes,
Right.
It is incumbent upon the federal authorities to pursue a RICO, and
Right.
they have jurisdiction in that instance. And it certainly does appear
And
that
it happens. I'm telling you, it's happened in my in my memory. I've referred to this before, but I remember that the New York mob. There was that big RICO takedown of the New York mob. That's notoriously what RICO was made for, was to take down the mob, or the Italian mob. And what they ended up finding was that a lot of law enforcement or police in that geographic area had become, corrupt. They were straight up hiding bodies for the mob. And it started they just started dropping like flies, in terms of finding entire agencies that were, taking bribes of just a very like substantial bribes. But it makes sense when you're getting paid so little, everyone has a number to be corrupt. And there were judges that got implicated, mayors that were implicated. It was shocking. And so I think the Northeast, at least, we kind of became like, a little bit jaded with having that recognition that law enforcement can be corrupt. And I don't know if that's ever happened in Indiana, but I think that, remember, Chicago is one of the most is the most corrupt place in the United States right now. And geographically, that corruption diffuses because that's where there is massive amounts of money, illicit money, and therefore there is a financial gain to be had by corrupting officials along those distribution routes. In my opinion, I think that there is always going to be corruption where there is illegal activity.
Oh yeah, because in my opinion, what's going on in Carroll County is that I've said it before, it's the lifeblood of the economy, especially the meth trade at that point in time.
Exactly. When you have a decline or such an absolute, so it's Rust Belt, right? It has a huge drop in industry, and with so many weather disasters in the area, you have few industries that want to even work, be there. So you have trucking and things like that. But along with trucking, you also have a great means of transporting
The trafficking.
Yeah.
And so if the local economy, the lifeblood of the economy, is flowing through that currency, for lack of a better term, law enforcement and the wealthy and the business owners, they have an incentive to allow it and to dip in and skim. And so I think that's why it's been happening. And
look at the number of meth busts that have occurred within Indiana from early 2000. IDHS posts this every year, and you can see where there are meth busts. And if you calibrate it per population, you can get a good idea of where that is super focused. And rural areas are the best places to manufacture it because there's so many abandoned buildings. There's not a lot of The police, I think that the police are very sometimes corruptible, and it just provides almost like a sanctuary for them to
That's
cook.
exactly what it is, I believe, in Carroll County, why we had these murders transpire. And see, I made it a point to talk to meth dealers and former
Mm.
meth users in Indiana. It was
I
strategic.
did too. I made a few mistakes with that one, but
Yeah. But one thing I learned for sure, because what they love to do is to come into this conversation and say it never happens and it never happened. But we
yeah,
had a safe space for cooking
yeah,
in Indiana, in Carroll County.
right.
We had a safe space and enabling of smurfing and
Yes.
of using. So
Yeah. There's actually a very interesting thing. But I don't know. I just get very interested in gangs and organized crime. It's and the three. It's if any of you guys have seen Breaking Bad, with the precursor methamphetamine. That's the way that you don't have to do the Nazi method, or I guess like the pseudoephedrine method. And it produces much more pure and potent methamphetamine. And the biggest labs that were identified by, I think, the intelligence agencies, the federal intelligence agencies, were Phoenix, Arizona, one in California. I think probably Oakland. That's where the original one, the Oakland rocket fuel, was first introduced in the 1970s by the Hells Angels, and methamphetamine has always been kind of very controlled by outlaw motorcycle clubs, but heavily at least. I'm sure other gangs have gotten their toes in it too. But it came from Phoenix, Oakland, California, and Indianapolis, Indiana. And I was
boom,
like, wow.
boom.
And
Yeah, say that
so,
again for the folks in the back.
yeah, so the biggest methamphetamine mass producers were in California, Phoenix, Arizona, and Indianapolis, Indiana. And that's been acknowledged, I think, throughout the early 2010s, and the most early, or most available federal
In the
reports.
2010s, say that again. Yeah. And see, it's
I
not a
can find the
conspiracy
actual report
theory.
if you want it.
It's not a conspiracy theory. Like, to be discounted for speaking facts is so infuriating. It is what it was, and it is what it is, and there's no arguing.
Yeah, no, I mean it's hard to, and if you look into what exactly Ferenczi did, it was a lot of the meth stuff. Like because he was in the hub of it. Terre Haute had such a crazy rate of meth bust. It was like one meth bust per 120 people. Like meth bust of like local meth cook. That's a huge number. That is like
Huge.
it's insane.
That's why he's dead now.
I've always suspected that that there was
It's my
something.
assumption, I should say.
Yeah, I'm sure that had.
I love the guy just by reading his work, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read any of his little book. He has a little book on Amazon.
Oh, he does? I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh, it's I mean it's I got chills just mentioning it because yeah, I highly recommend anyone just type Greg Ferenczi into Amazon. Um, the guy is sort of a folk hero to me, and it's unusual because I don't have any law enforcement folk heroes, but he is one for me now.
Yeah. I honestly, I think that he's truly a hero. I think that Stephanie Thompson's truly a hero, and it makes me so angry how I've noticed that people in the county, they are they're very strongly a staunch supporter of whenever there's a law enforcement death. They change their pictures, they show solidarity, and the silence when Greg Ferenczi died was very odd
Yeah,
because
where was
he had
Chris Paul
interacted.
in videoing his services?
Yeah.
Sorry, I
It,
get a little heated.
oh no, me too. I sobbed my eyes out um, for his just watching his services. And also, it made me so livid to see, like, on the Facebook group, like they posted about his that he was shot down, and it had, 2 likes juxtaposed to, any of the other deaths that happened throughout the state, of, far less respected agents. I mean, the silence was deafening with that. And it seemed like there had to have been an animosity for none of their own local law enforcement that had directly interacted with him to feel anything about
There,
that.
it's called Narc Ops, and unfortunately, it looks like it's sold out at the moment. But you can put a notification on or a watch. I see it
Mhm.
come up from time to time, and there's a digital version floating around the interwebs because I've read the digital version.
Oh, really? Okay.
If you're able to
I'll
download it,
find that.
it's floating out there. Narc Ops.
Yeah, this one is, there's also quite a lot throughout like Kentucky as well. Um, it's just, I mean, it's been a very interesting thing. I'll send some of these to you on either Discord or wherever, and you can go through them um, as you wish. But I love to look at the actual, like, the just the reports, and just like kind of painstakingly go through them, and derive my own opinions. I don't really like to read the actual like news assessments of it. Not that like
Right.
I have any issue with it. It just seems like, I feel like you can also draw a stronger um, and maybe more novel insights from, collecting this on your own, and determining and extrapolating what's relevant to you, is also.
Yeah, that's exactly how I handle the physics research. I
Mm.
just I must have the papers because it's the interpretation. Even within the reports, the interpretation is often biased, and
Oh
so
yeah, yeah.
so
I didn't know you could have so many. Honestly, I think it'll be interesting to see these experts kind of go head to head, um, because I think the defense has stronger experts, but we'll see.
yeah. And with that, hey, I think that we did a great job. I am extremely tired now, and
Oh yeah, it's late, and you've been up for a while. Thank you so much for having me on.
thank you
Um,
so much for coming on. I've
Absolutely.
been hoping to have a brief talk with you about flora here, and look, it worked out unplanned.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just wanted to jump in, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone in the chat, and you guys are absolutely great. And if you guys get a chance, watch the 3-part series on Flora that they just had on Wish TV. So just wanted
On
to let
Wish
you guys
TV.
know. All
Okay.
right. Bye
Well, thank
bye.
you so much, Meow. Bye bye, and God bless. Wow, what a blessing! What a blessing to have Meow come on, and I just love her. Um, Sweet Dude Shibby says, "Good cops are bad for business." Holman, Liggett, Lesenby, Mullins, and Carter will live long and be well pensioned. They are the worst. Bad cops give cops a bad name in a time when we need good cops more than ever. And I guess I'll just end this with a prayer that God show us in our heart's conviction, each of us separately, what is true, what is good, what is fitting, and what is prescient. We need each other. We need God, because without it, there is nothing. And our own perception is too easily flawed. And so I want to thank all of our amazing guests who came on, including Benny Beagle, Noe Amos, Phoenix, Meow, and I don't know, I may have missed one or two others, but I just want to thank everyone who made it and who joined in the panel. I want to thank the Troll Farm. Thank you for showing us who you are. Thank you for showing us the wrong way to be. And we will hope and pray for you that you find conviction in your hearts to reflect upon life and try to do the right things. Because I know I do every day, despite what anyone's opinion is. You can't please everyone. So you got to learn to please yourself and live with yourself. And I want to thank everyone in the chat. And I've mentioned many times before, this could not go were it not for you, because I can't do anything with this channel without the participation in the chat and in the comment sections, because that was the objective of this channel. And so I need you to make this thing go. And so for those of you in the chat, just understand you are the fuel that keeps this fire burning. And I really do appreciate you, especially those of you who regularly come. You bring so much value. And like I said, together we are stronger than we are apart. This is an endeavor to address something of such complexity that no one human being could possibly handle it themselves. This village truly does have to raise the child. What we're bringing forward into existence, it's a monumental task. And hey, we're getting there. And I really do believe that it's going to take each and every one of us headed in the right direction to help bring about truth and justice for the victims of the Delphi murders, the Florida fires, and all periphery victims of these crimes. So I want to thank all of you, and I'll try to name as many of you now as possible. That's Carol, Sandy D, Sweet Dude Shibby, Radar, Diamond Eyes, Noe Amos, Foxy Lady, Marianne Foster, Radar, Lisa, Diamond Eyes, Linda K. Johnson, True Grit Crime, Bjorn, Precocent, Marianne Foster, may have already said your name, Rex Stardust, Freckle Joy, Eye of Apophis, JoJo, Nancy Drew 101, Luis Cuevas, Sweet Dude Shibby, probably said your name already. I mean it twice too, Bubby. Brittany, Sandy D, Linda K. Johnson, and gosh, Eye of Apophis, I may have already said. Geez, just everyone, okay? All right, I'd be really remiss to forget about ACV and is a God thing. Sandy D, if I haven't already said your name. And hey, everyone else who was here much earlier, just thank you for being here. And guys, please give me a round of applause now for our amazing, beautiful little prof himself, who not only does he put up with daddy constantly on the phone, constantly researching, constantly working, and being engaged upon the search, but also he puts up with me sitting here on a stream. And luckily today I had some help in making sure he was entertained and loved. But wow, 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 wow. Is that little genius a champ for putting up with the dad who puts up with the insanity that is the Delphi murders public discussion on these interwebs? And he is beautiful. And so thank you, little prof. And fortunately, he's asleep at the moment. He is getting his dream time, counting sheep, and getting recharged for tomorrow's adventures. So God bless all of you. Peace out. I love you. We'll see you later. And hopefully, although this may not have been the greatest Delphi live stream you'll ever see, hopefully it is and was a great Delphi live stream. And our reflections on this community and on this case hopefully added something to your life and to your heart. So God bless you all. We'll get out of here, and I'll see you on another day.